Part 271. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2712. Everyone, the master you are talking about has probably been killed by me. Jia Yan's unexpected remarks made the crowd, who were still feeling proud just now and thought they had found an excuse, instantly fall into silence. Immediately, the expressions of this group of people finally changed drastically. This, sir, are you talking about the invincible immortal cultivator who was driven away by you? One person asked hesitantly. Jia Yan looked at him indifferently, shook his head and responded, I was killed. Gudu. Everyone's gaze changed, and they were completely stunned. Just now, I said that the powerful immortal cultivator was an invincible master, so it must be difficult to kill him, but now he was slapped in the face so quickly. The young master from the Xinhe Black Temple actually said that he had killed the immortal cultivator they feared like a tiger? How can they make excuses? And what makes them even more frightened is that although the immortal cultivator does not seem to be in the invincible state, for this situation where there are no masters, it can probably be regarded as the invincible state. Now the young man in front of them said, this doesn't the news about the killing of people mean that the young people are firmly invincible, while their group of venerables are just frogs in the well? Invincible realm. Their eyes were complicated and full of jealousy and fear. They looked at Jia Yan deeply. When their eyes met with Jia Yan's, there was naturally a sense of coercion that penetrated their pores and hit their whole bodies, making their hair stand on end. I see, it's us Meng Lang. If you, sir, had told us this information earlier, none of the venerables just now would have been able to escape from our encirclement. That's right. I didn't expect that you, sir, are actually a great master who can overpower that immortal cultivator. There is nothing we can do against this person. Your master's strength is astonishing. I admire you. This group of venerable masters once again acted out the bottomless dog-licking mode on Jia Yan without any sense of integrity. They were extremely shocked. If Jia Yan really killed the immortal cultivator, there might have been a big battle, but they did not get any information or data about the battle, which means that the battle between the two sides might have happened in an instant, or in the blink of an eye. A very secretive place. A hidden place is unlikely. The intelligence system of the immortal cultivator yesterday showed that he came to this battlefield openly. It is impossible for him to go to a hidden place inexplicably and start a battle with a strong young man. So there is only one answer, that is, this person was easily killed by Jia Yan, and the battle only happened in a split second. What kind of strength does this have to be able to kill another master who is close to the invincible realm with such lightning speed that it cannot even be detected by outside detection? No wonder, when so many venerable masters surrounded and killed the young master, his expression did not change. Maybe this person hasn't taken down those dozen people for a long time. It's not that his strength is just that. Maybe he spent a lot of energy fighting the immortal cultivator, and maybe he even got a little injured. In this case, it must be I will think much more highly of his strength. One person suddenly sent a message to the other two respected masters who were friends with him, and he conducted what he thought was a correct analysis in a cunning manner. One of his good friends, the venerables, was sweating coldly. No, it is very likely that this person deliberately let go of the group of venerables. After all, with such strength, it is impossible to take a group of ordinary venerables seriously. He is so his behavior may be to hide his strength. The three of them looked at each other, then quickly changed their attitudes to be more upright, and tried their best to flatter everyone. There seemed to be similar discussions among other venerable level experts, and then everyone came to similar conclusions. In short, regardless of whether they thought of all the above, they did not dare to offend Jia Yan, who was capable of killing a master close to the invincible realm. As for whether Jia Yan was lying about killing the immortal cultivators, no one questions this matter, because there is no point in lying on this point. After all, he is a great master. There is no need to tell such lies, otherwise he will be slapped in the face later. He is shameless and will be ridiculed by others for no reason, and even worse, it will cause dissatisfaction among the venerables. Okay, since you are worried about the appearance of the immortal cultivator, it is not unreasonable. I don't blame you, but if you miss the opportunity again next time, I will definitely kill you. Do you understand? Yes. The respected masters no longer dared to go against Jia Yan, and they all willingly bowed their heads and accepted orders. This is an existence that can kill a master who is close to the invincible realm, which means that he must be in the invincible realm, and may even be the more powerful type in the invincible realm, and they cannot be tolerated. Next, Jia Yan was very satisfied that the group of masters in front of him and the Xinhe Temple Alliance fleet behind him were no longer obedient to him. A large number of troops were dispatched to carry out Jia Yan's pursuit and elimination mission. Subsequently, the squadron that was killed by Edisha and Jialin, as well as the location traces of the battle between the cultivators and Jia Yan, were quickly found. The information was conveyed, and all the venerables received the conclusive information. In fear, his attitude toward Jia Yan became even lower. This incident finally allowed Jia Yan to gain a firm foothold in this land of stars, and almost the entire power of the Xinhe Temple fell into his hands. Behind the company, the so-called Xinhe Temple base, which commands this area from afar, may also know the information about this great master who came all the way from the real base camp of the Black God system, but they just don't know how they will react. That mysterious master always feels something strange, and it seems a little familiar. However, the traces have been destroyed too completely, and there is no way to investigate. Next time, we must investigate clearly, and we can even use the breath of the real body. Jia Yan casually entered a warship belonging to the Xinhe Temple Alliance and calmly recovered his body's strength while thinking about the war situation here. In particular, he was somewhat interested in the so-called mysterious master who secretly helped the Xinhe Temple Alliance fleet. There was even the idea of letting the real body in the background of the world radiate power next time the other party appears again, and feel the true face of the other party. After all, if his true form is deployed, he is almost omnipotent in this world, and there is nothing he cannot do. But he didn't know that at this moment, the two so-called mysterious masters were in the deep desolation of the underworld. They opened another door to the world with a smile, and got into it one after another. Wow, Jialin, look, isn't it fun here? Editha happily walked out to the planet outside the door of the real world, and she became happy for a moment. Jialin, who followed closely behind, had just walked out of the gate of the world, and instantly smelled the thick and refreshing air that was refreshing to the heart, and there was some kind of strange power in the air, which made people extremely comfortable. She was frightened for a moment, and found that the power in the air not only did not harm her body, but was also vaguely good for her. She nodded happily. What an amazing planet! Is it full of spiritual energy? It's so rich. Yes, it's full of spiritual energy. Edisha likes it here very much. There are also delicious spiritual fruits here. There are many in Kingling's house. Let's go and eat them, shall we? Thinking of the spiritual fruit and spiritual tea, Edisha's saliva almost flowed out of her mouth, and she pulled Jialin, who was also about to move, to fly in a certain direction. That's right, after these two little brats destroyed the enemy warships in the battle area, they realized that they needed to reward themselves after the war, so Edisha suggested that they come to the cultivation star. Jialin had never been to Xiaoxiangxing. Every day she heard from Edisha how beautiful the scenery was, how delicious the food was, and how full of energy she had. She was already salivating over this place, and of course she would not refuse. Anyway, they are already known to everyone as little troublemakers in the Black God sect, and they don't care what others say. At this moment, in the majestic hall, the young girl in charge was frowning, gazing at the scroll and thinking about something. As the person in charge of the Black God department here, Qingling still has a heavy burden. Not only does she need to seize the entire voice of the immortal cultivation star as much as possible, but she also needs to avoid revealing the information that she is a master of the Black God department. It's not easy to order any one of them, and she needs to try her best to do both. The sect of the Song dynasty actually played a hard-to-get trick on us, dragging my army to prevent us from entering. On the other hand, they contacted the army commanded by mysterious masters. This is what they have decided to do. Is this the idea of being a swinger and trying to please both sides and not willing to pay the price? There was a hint of coldness in Qingling's expression. Things like wallweed can be found on any planet in any world. She had encountered many such guys during the previous battle for hegemony on her home star, and even some were treacherous, so she was quite unhappy with such existence, but she could do nothing about it. Because if you don't unite with the bad guys will find a way to turn to the other side, then destroy your good deeds and make you lose everything. Qingwan, who was waiting beside her, suddenly made a sound of surprise and uncertainty. What's wrong? Qingling raised her head in dissatisfaction. She hated anyone who dared to destroy her thoughts when she was thinking about something. In the outside world, I'm afraid she has already dismissed such subordinates. It is said that she is a top cultivation genius in the outside world, and she does not need any subordinates. Generally speaking, even subordinates are just her combat subordinates during the war. There has never been the presence of a life of service. Going back to the head, Qingwan just seemed to have seen some figure, but the figure was too small. Maybe Qingwan was dazzled. Please forgive me, head. Qingwan was as silent as a cicada, and quickly bowed her hands respectfully, asking for forgiveness. Qingling wanted to scold her for not saying anything shocking, but when she came back to her senses from a full-strength thinking level, she really discovered that something was wrong. Instantly, my hair stood on end. Someone is approaching me at such a close distance, but I can't find it. The strength all over her body surged fiercely. She cast her eyes fiercely in the direction of the aura in her senses, and shouted, "Who is it?" Just as she was about to vent her energy, Qingling saw clearly the little kid who was tiptoeing by the table, his crystal clear hands reaching for the fruit plate, and a spiritual fruit stuffed in his mouth. "Is it you?" She became confused. Obviously he knows this little kid. Qingwan looked up in Qingling's direction, and her expression immediately changed. She knew this 5 or 6-year-old girl. She was brought here last time by the elusive young man. That time, the little kid really didn't save anything for them. She even took food and took it away. Many sect leaders specially supplied spiritual fruit tea and the like, which caused the Xin Chen sect to spend a lot of money to purchase large quantities of high-quality goods from outside in the later period, causing some financial problems. Now she's here again? Master, she must be here to steal our spiritual fruit. Qingwan should drive her away, right? Qingwan looked even more grief-stricken and angry than Qingling, and her whole body was ready to use force, as if she really wanted to use force. Qingling looked at Qingwan meaningfully, causing King Juan's face to change suddenly, and then quickly stepped aside, knowing that she could not intervene in this matter. Just now she said the wrong thing out of desperation, because Qingwan seemed to be chased by Qingling and became the head's maid, but everyone knew that she was actually very greedy in it, and Qingling ate the spiritual fruit. She can usually eat as much as Ling Cha Qingling eats, and she has to eat as much as Ling Cha Qingling eats. Recently, her strength has increased by leaps and bounds. The little girl was about 5 or 6 years old. She looked back and saw Qingling, her eyes narrowed with a smile, and her little mouth was bulging with a large amount of spiritual fruit. Qingling cursed angrily, "Eat it before you talk." The girl nodded vigorously, choked, and her big eyes turned white several times, trying not to choke to death. After swallowing all the spiritual fruits, she was finally able to speak normally, Adisha misses you. Adisha came to see you. She brought Jiolin with her. Your Highness, Jiolin is here too. Qingling didn't care what the little kid said, but after hearing the word Jiolin, her expression suddenly changed. After feeling it, she flew out of the hall. Adisha looked at her in a hurry and didn't care where she went. She looked at Qingwan, smiled cutely, and naively stretched out her little hand to grab the spiritual fruit on the plate. You are not allowed to eat any more, shameless. King Juan's face turned cold and she said. Adisha turned a deaf ear and gave Qingwan a rollicking look, as if to say, the master didn't even say no, but you, a servant, said no, so you have to be embarrassed. She is as thick-skinned as the city wall, be afraid of being scolded? What depresses Qingwan is yet to come. It turned out that Qingling only left for a moment, and soon flew back to the Xinchen Gate Hall with another little girl of 12 or 13 years old. The two parties only said a few words. Qingwan didn't hear the specifics clearly. She only knew. More than 100 words are missing. You can see the original version in half an hour after refreshing. The things that make Qingwan depressed are still to come. It turned out that Qingling only left for a moment, and soon flew back to the Xinchen Gate Hall with another little girl of 12 or 13 years old. The two parties only said a few words. Qingwan didn't hear the specifics clearly. She only knew. More than 100 words are missing. You will be able to see the original version in half an hour after refreshing. The thing that makes Qingwan depressed is still to come. It turned out that Qingling only left for a moment, and soon flew back to the Xinchen Gate Hall with another little girl of 12 or 13 years old. The two parties only said a few words, but Qingwan didn't hear the details clearly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2713. Qingwan complained incessantly, but Qingling beside her just looked at her curiously, and then chatted with Aditha and Jiolin nonchalantly. It was just linguo ling cha. For her and Adisha, it had no effect. It was just a matter of appetite. Jiolin had some effects, but that was it, and no one cared much about it. So I can't understand King Juan's thoughts. To the people at the bottom, these are treasures, even things created by nature. Qingling doesn't understand this. If she did, maybe she wouldn't let Qingwan swallow so many spiritual fruits. Jiolin, did I lie to you? It's delicious, right? It's delicious and good for the body. It seems like a kind of power enters my body. Jiolin's beautiful eyes lit up. Adisha nodded generously, then eat more. This is called menstrual cleansing and marrow rejuvenation. It is very good for people of your strength. If you eat more, your strength will be improved. Qingling also smiled like a spring breeze and said, yes, I forgot that your Highness Lin needs these spiritual fruits. Next time, I will ask someone to pick more and let you take some back to eat. Although the effect is better than nothing, it is our Xinchen sect's specialty after all. Don't refuse, your Highness Lin. Well, okay, I'll take some back to eat. Jiolin nodded like a chicken pecking at rice, her mouth full of juice. It's so delicious. Even if it doesn't increase your strength, it's still much more delicious than ordinary food if you just use it to satisfy your appetite. Qingwan was beside her, biting her lips, but she was also curious, who was her Highness Lin, who even her head Qingling wanted to be treated like a star. Not to mention that Qingwan here is like a morning concubine, nor is there any mention of Adisha Jiolin, who has her mouth full of sweet juice. I just say that there are two countries in this great star of cultivating immortals, one of which is called the Song Kingdom, and the other is called the Song Kingdom. The country's name is Chu. The two countries, Song and Chu, had been enemies for generations at war with each other. However, during the Xinchen sect's large-scale invasion, the mainstay sects of the two countries came to mediate and became a vague alliance. These two countries were the places where the forces that dealt the first heavy blow to Xinchen sect appeared. Qingling had a headache for a moment. Nowadays, the battlefields of both sides are still full of blood and flesh, but the war situation has generally entered a peaceful period, and the all-conquering Xingqianmen coalition forces are blocked in the Song dynasty. The frightened rear of the Song kingdom has now calmed down, and the people and senior officials have returned to a calm and peaceful mood, and have begun to return to normal life as before. It is simply impossible for these two countries, which are already big countries and have been greedy for pleasure for thousands of years, to have their entire people enter a state of emergency due to a war. In the Song kingdom, the largest sect, the Song sword sect, which was also rumored to have produced a swordsman, was welcoming a very important guest at this time. I've met the master of the Song Jian section. Several men and women stepped on flying magic weapons and arrived at the mountain gate of Song Jian section. Masters from all walks of life within Song Jian sect were also waiting in formation below. They were not preparing to fight, but preparing to unite the two sects and then form a coalition. A bridge between two great countries. Therefore, this matter is very important and cannot be ignored. You're welcome. I didn't expect that Elder Fihi of the Chu faction would personally lead the team this time, so we met him from afar. The head of the Song Jian sect did not show any signs of being a leader, and quickly greeted the person from below, making the visitor feel flattered and deeply feel the sincerity of the other party. The two sides soon got into a heated fight. Among them, among the people from Chu, there was a woman who looked like she was 28 years old. She looked around and then seemed to see someone. Joy appeared in her eyes, and then she got in. He walked into the crowd, whispered to the man in the photo for a moment, and then both of them walked into the back of Song Jian sect with charming smiles. My good mother-in-law, I haven't seen you for a few days, and she has become more and more graceful. Tell me, do you want to be my husband these days? Of course I miss you, good husband. I have done everything you asked me to do. Last time, an elder in my Chu sect was worried about the alliance. I tried countless methods but he refused to let go, so I tried my best to make him ruined and die in prison, and I even killed several of his descendants to avoid future troubles. Husband, do you think I did a good job? Of course, I will reward you as a husband. The man burst into laughter, while the woman had a rippling sound in her laughter. Who? Suddenly, the man's expression changed wildly and he looked into the forest. The woman also stared at the past. The expressions of the two of them changed again and again, and among the bamboo peaks in the mountains, there was a girl who was about 28 years old, sitting lazily on the ground, with picturesque features, looking at the two of them quietly and distantly. Who is this? Is it someone from your Song Jian sect? I'm going to kill her. Women among men and women suddenly have murderous intentions. One was that their adultery was broken by the girl on the bamboo peak, and the other was that she discovered that the sitting girl was truly stunning. She was already a rare and beautiful fairy in the world of immortality. But compared to the girl sitting upright, it pales in comparison to the stars and the bright moon. A woman's hatred is often inexplicable and quite ruthless, let alone a strong and powerful woman. As long as she is not the daughter of the head elder, if she wants to kill other disciples, even if this is the Song Jian sect, she can. It was so easy to take this girl's life. She was at most slightly suspicious, but under the premise that the two factions were working together, there was a high chance that the big issue would be turned into a trivial one. This, can't be killed, keep silent. But when the man discovered the girl, he took in a breath of cold air. After quickly giving instructions, he floated down in the air and greeted the girl with fists. I've met my lord. The stunning girl's starry eyes were blurred, and she looked up at the man. She saw this man who was a cultivator who was fascinated by the women of Fangchu section. He was handsome and dignified. He was indeed a handsome man. No need to be polite, go and bring her down. I have something to ask her. The girl was not moved by the handsome man at all, she just ordered him lightly. The man sighed and nodded. He was also very depressed. After knowing that his immediate boss was a beautiful woman, he thought something good would happen. Unexpectedly, she was loved by everyone like him. The Neptune man didn't take any fancy to him at all, and even if he provoked women with extraordinary abilities, he didn't take him seriously. He didn't do anything either. Not long after, the woman who descended from the sky approached the charming girl suspiciously, and looked suspiciously between her lover and the girl. "Don't worry, I don't like this kind of man at all," the girl answered directly like a round worm in her stomach. The handsome guy who cultivated immortality smiled bitterly, took 2 steps away and looked at the sky, pretending that he didn't hear anything. "Humph, my husband-in-law is top-notch in talent and strength. It's not that you don't like him, it's that he doesn't like you." The woman's face turned cold, even though she said that her lover also didn't like the girl. At that time, she looked at the girl's frayed skin, especially the girl's perfect temperament revealed from the bones. She was a little unable to express it, but the anger was in her heart, and the words came out naturally. The girl suddenly smiled lightly, as if she didn't care what the woman said about her. Because of her appearance and temperament, right here, the girl was extremely confident. No matter what the woman said, she could not deny the reality. Moreover, she had no intention of having any feelings for the handsome man cultivating immortality. He doesn't deserve it. Come here and I'll ask you a few questions. The girl pointed to her side. Her laziness looked very sad, but this laziness also showed another artistic conception, which was unpredictable and added to the fatal charm. The woman was a little envious and jealous, but the man had just asked her to obey his orders. She knew that the girl's status might be extraordinary, and her strength might even be extraordinary, so she snorted coldly and followed his words and came to the girl's side. "Let me ask you, do you have a family?" The girl's completely undisguised question made the woman's veins bulge, her face red, her neck thick, and she wanted to curse. "Does this mean that you are cheating on yourself, right? I'm not that kind of person. It's just that my lifelong love has been delayed in my life. As long as this war is over, I will separate from my ex-husband in the Chu faction, throw myself into his arms, and live a life of only love every day." Family life. The man behind him was about to get angry when he saw him. His face changed drastically, and he pointed in the air behind him with his spiritual energy. Sensing the strange movement, the woman's face was gloomy and suspicious. She looked at the man and then at the lazy girl sitting upright, wondering what the relationship between the two was. But she thought about it and decided that it would be inconvenient to fall out with her husband. Besides, this young girl's nose looked up to the sky, as if she really looked down on her husband. "Yes, I do have a family, but now, the family can be abandoned at any time. My husband and I are really in love." "What, do you have anything else to ask?" The girl seemed to be concentrating when she spoke, listening to every word and vocabulary she said. After listening, she nodded understandingly and smiled sweetly. "Yes, if you are in love, you won't care about these things." She raised her head and said, "Also, if your husband now encounters a powerful enemy, but you think you can charm that powerful enemy and let him kill your husband. Your son-in-law's plan failed, but he asked you to commit yourself to it, and even your husband-in-law misunderstood you. Are you willing to do such a thing?" The female cultivator looked at the girl like she was crazy. Her thoughts were racing in her heart, and she was thinking about a lot of things. It seems that the peerless beauty in front of me is telling her own story. She and he are probably the same person? Is she also cheating on Hongxing? No, apart from Hongxing cheating on her, she even committed herself to serve Xinhuan's enemy, and Xinhuan still misunderstood her after that. Damn it! Why does it sound like he is even worse than himself, and his problem seems to be more serious than his own? The female fairy's face changed several times. After a while, she finally calmed down all her thoughts and showed her most sincere smile. "Sister, if this happens to me, I will do it. There is nothing more in life than love. There are righteous people. The way we live is the way we live with love and affection. How the world sees it is the world's view. We women are inherently affectionate. If we violate our true intentions due to worldly views, wouldn't our life be in vain? Why bother, sister, you said what I said, right? The girl lowered her head again and remained silent for a long time. It was not until the man behind them started complaining and asking the fairy who was fascinated by her to shut up that she raised her head again. Her eyes were no longer confused and her words were sonorous and powerful. You are right. I am not only a woman, but also a strong man. Living in this world, I do whatever I want. If I want to do it, I will do it. What does it have to do with the advice of outsiders? Whether he accepts it or not, it doesn't matter. We and other strong men have a long life, and there will always be a day when their gold and stone are opened. Thank you. The girl Ying bowed, and then her whole body glowed with a strong six-pointed star. In the extreme horror of the two people around her, she turned into a white ball of light and disappeared in front of her eyes like a flash. There is a difference of a few hundred words. Book friends who have subscribed to Cheateon.com in an hour can refresh and read it. Yes, if you are in love, you won't care about these things. She raised her head and said, also, if I were your husband, now you have encountered a powerful enemy, but you think you can charm that powerful enemy and make his plan to kill your husband fail, but you are asked to commit yourself and even make your husband misunderstand you. Are you willing to do such a thing? The female cultivator looked at the girl like she was crazy. Her thoughts were racing in her heart, and she was thinking about a lot of things. It seems that the peerless beauty in front of me is telling her own story. She and he are probably the same person? Is she also cheating on Hongxing? No, apart from Hongxing cheating on her, she even committed herself to serve Xinhuan's enemy, and Xinhuan still misunderstood her after that. Damn it! Why does it sound like he is even worse than himself? Moreover, it seems that his problem is more serious than his own. The female fairy's face changed several times. After a while, she finally calmed down all her thoughts and showed her most sincere smile. Sister, if this happens to me, I will do it. There is nothing more in life than love. There are righteous people. The way we live is the way we live with love and affection. How the world sees it is the world's view. We women are inherently affectionate. If we violate our true intentions due to worldly views, wouldn't our life be in vain? Why bother, sister, you said what I said, right? The girl lowered her head again and remained silent for a long time. It was not until the man behind them started complaining and asking the fairy who was fascinated by her to shut up that she raised her head again. Her eyes were no longer confused and her words were sonorous and powerful. You are right. I am not only a woman, but also a strong man. Living in this world, I do whatever I want. If I want to do it, I will do it. What does it have to do with the advice of outsiders? Whether he accepts it or not, it doesn't matter. We and other strong men have a long life, and there will always be a day when their gold and stone are opened. Thank you. The girl Ying bowed, and then her whole body bloomed with a strong six-pointed star brilliance, bloomed with a strong six-pointed star brilliance, bloomed with a strong six-pointed star brilliance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2714. Adisha and Qingling were strong enough. They felt something about the flash of brilliance just now, and they immediately raised their eyes and looked over. That was an extremely powerful master, probably a god-level expert, and they were from the Black God section. No one from the Black God sect would come here without telling them for no reason, so the one who left suddenly and blatantly would only be the White God. A strong one. I didn't expect that someone from the White God department has already come here. It seems that they also realize the importance of this place. Are the recent abnormalities really caused by the Xinbei God Temple? Qingling stared. She originally knew that Xinbei Temple was causing trouble, but today she suddenly felt the power of a powerful man from the White God system who was slightly stronger than her, and the dignity that she had already mentioned became even more serious. Jialin and Qingwan were baffled. Seeing that the elder one and the younger one kept secrets, Jialin continued to devour the spiritual fruit as usual, while Qingwan was thinking about something. Eat well, Adisha will give you some advice. After Adisa ate and drank so much that her belly bulged, she took a pen and paper from King Juan's antique coffee table, wrote down a bunch of things, and threw it to Qingling. Qingling accepted it with excitement. With a wave of her hand, the kit box behind her floated up. She put the paper into it and took it with her. Qingwan wanted to roll her eyes. What's worth taking seriously about the graffiti of a 5-year-old kid? Judging from this situation, Qingling must have joined some mysterious organization. The strength of that organization should be quite good, and these two little brats are the high-ranking disciples of that organization. Otherwise, how could they be worthy of being the head of the Xin Chen sect in the Ascendant? Qingling takes it so seriously. Different from the impetuous Qingwan, Qingling knows that the strategies given by Etissa are definitely worthy of attention, because he was able to carry out so many smooth operations in the past to defeat the weak and win more battles with fewer defeats. Most of them relied on a great tip from Adita. Different from the way of thinking of people in the native world, Jia Yan and his group of outsiders do not pay attention to the fact that strong people must also be resourceful. Although this matter is also extremely important in the outside world, when it comes to issues such as conceiving statistics, they still rely more on intelligence. Brain computer. Is it worth being depressed if your computer speed is compared to yours? Will you be angry if you are weaker than your intellectual brain in planning and statistics? If he couldn't bear this, then the powerful people in the galaxy would have been driven to extinction by computers. Aditha seems to have become a living being, but she still has obvious intellectual characteristics, especially computing power and coordination ability. It is impossible for Qingling to compare with her in these, right? So there's no shame in that. As for strategic planning ability, this is not too difficult for Edisha, who is now half-living. She has gradually become more down-to-earth and understands the thinking and acting methods of living beings. Combined with her computing power, she will naturally become more capable. Going up a level. It's better than this, so why bother? From King Juan's point of view, this little brat Aditha just came here to eat and be lazy. After eating and drinking, she still had to take some. Master, this is the new spiritual fruit tea that has been put into the warehouse recently. If it runs out, there won't be much left in stock. An elder gave a box of spiritual fruit and spiritual tea to him in a helpless manner. He looked at the two little girls beside Qingling, who were a little confused. If it's gone, go collect it from below. I have important uses for these spiritual fruits. Okay, you can step back. Yes. The elder sighed, bowed, and retreated. The elders used to have quality of life requirements, and they usually like to eat high-end spiritual fruit and spiritual tea. However, after fighting under Qingling, it seemed that their status had increased, but these spiritual fruit and spiritual tea were less. If it were not for cultivation supplies, they would be useless. There may have been an uproar over the shortage. You can take these back to eat. By the way, last time I came here, I told you what you were playing, the runaway game. Remember to stop in moderation. When Edisha happily accepted a large amount of spiritual fruit tea, Qingling made a meaningful comment, causing Edisha to stiffen. We know, let's go home right away. Edisha nodded vigorously, quickly took Jialin's hand, tore open the black space in front of Qingwan, then jumped up and disappeared into the crack in a flash. Qingling turned around and as expected saw Qingwan dumbfounded, as if she had seen some magical skill. Recently, Jia Yan, Edisha, and the others have been going back and forth. Qingwan had her doubts. Qingling also didn't think there would be anything wrong with Qingwan knowing about her and others' ability to travel. After all, people speak softly, and her words will spread. She doesn't go to the outside world, so she is allowed to have a lot of secrets of her own. The matter between your Highness Jiolin and Edisha must not be told to outsiders, do you understand? Yes. My subordinates know. Qingwan nodded in agreement tremblingly, feeling shocked in her heart. She had previously thought that the young man Jia Yan who often came here, as well as the eccentric Jiolin Edisha and others, should be visitors from the powerful forces in this cultivator planet, but what she saw today overturned all her imagination. Edisha and others may not be cultivators of the great star. So is the head of the Xin Chen sect in front of her, Qingling, really the great star princess of cultivation? Thinking of this, Qingwan felt chills all over her body, and she felt a sense of fear of being pinched by invisible hands. Who are the leaders of Qingling and others, and what are their goals? Qingling's battle with the immortal cultivating sect was quickly adjusted again after Qingling obtained the strategic guidelines compiled by Edisha from all over the place and conducted an on-the-spot investigation in Qingling's head hall. Xingqianmen, who was brave enough to move forward, began to slow down his pace, and gradually turned from being aggressive to a strategy of keeping a low profile and biding his time. I had acquired too much ground before and had no time to digest and absorb it, but now I have stopped, which is quite reasonable. It is the Xin Chen sect's surrender to the forces and the Xin Chen sect's members who are accustomed to the strength of the Xin Chen sect in recent months. They suddenly turn to a shrinking policy. They are quite unaccustomed to it. There are even rumors among the people in the city that Xin Chen sect has become a strong force in recent months. The sect leader probably thought that this battle was impossible to win and was afraid of the battle. Regardless of whether these rumors are true or not, the reputation and awe of Xin Chen sect among the people and various places has quickly plummeted. A large number of resistance organizations and forces began to gradually rise, and some were even fearless of death. As for the forces that had taken refuge in the Xin Chen sect, they were all worried, fearing that they were betting on the wrong side. While people's hearts were in a state of flux, a series of orders were issued from inside the Xin Chen sect. These orders are not war orders, but a series of actions carried out in the dark. These are the guidance strategies from Edisha. If it were the previous Edisha, or the Edisha of the intelligent brain era, she would only gain experience from big data and come up with some actions to appease the rear, or even suppress it, but now she became more understanding of human nature, and began to have countless thoughts and ideas. Combined with her knowledge, the strategies she came up with were naturally more reasonable and perfect than before. Some notorious organizations were wiped out by Xin Chen section. Xin Chen sect quickly brought these organizations out to speak out, saying that these organizations were wreaking havoc in the newly occupied territory of Xin Chen sect and were evil people who committed all kinds of evil. Xin Chen sect felt sorry for the civilians. The suffering of the people was so great that they spared no effort to help them. In this way, the rumors about Xin Chen sect turning to a defensive policy were greatly offset. Moreover, Xingqianmen also gained a widespread impression of caring about the country and its people. As for privately, Xin Chen sect has used various secret abilities to kill or assassinate various people with evil intentions. No one is spreading these things. This is called robbing the hearts and minds of the people. Xin Chen sect is already too radical. If we continue to confront the stronger enemy at this moment, we will probably fall into a situation that is beyond redemption. And Edisha's personal arrival, after observing various trends in the Xin Chen sect, directly came to the policy of switching from offense to defense, which can be said to be a vicious vision. In this way, Xin Chen sect quickly digested all the hidden dangers inside, and gradually gained the ability to fight head-on. But no one knew about the little brat who came up with these delaying tactics. All the soldiers and people of the Xin Chen sect were praising the leader Qing Ling for her great achievements. However, Qing Wan, who knew the inside story, had a slight expression on her face again and again. Change. That little kid is so awesome. However, she may not have thought that the little girl who, with a few strokes, made the entire Xin Chen sect recover from several defeats and a state of confusion, is not living a high-class life as she imagined. Jia Lin, these spiritual fruits belong to me, you are not allowed to eat them. What? Qing Ling clearly told me. You are not allowed to eat, and this is my palace. You are the god of death. You are not allowed to come to my palace of hell. You asked me to come and play, but I don't want to come. Deep in the underworld, 2 little kids who ran away from home have returned. When they left, they didn't attract much attention, and when they came back, they were also quiet. Except for the happy souls of the 2 major temples, no one seemed to know that they even went out to play. Fortunately, the anger of the 2 little brats has subsided and they are ready to have another carnival. They think that Jia Yan doesn't understand fashion, nor does he understand what the souls want. It's so uncomfortable when the underworld is so dead. Let everyone cheer up, so that the deadness will be more pleasing to the eye. Regardless of whether Jia Yan can understand it or not, they are really determined to hold this kind of gathering again, and what is exaggerated is that the final prize is a few spiritual fruits from the immortal cultivation star. You must know that everything in the underworld is transformed by the power of the Black God, and they are all dead energy objects in the underworld, such as spiritual fruits. If they are placed here, they are treasures that can improve the strength of the soul. Suddenly there were many people flocking to him. But the 2 little brats themselves did not dare to participate in such gatherings in public anymore, or at least did not dare to go on stage to party again, because it would be really embarrassing and painful to be caught and spanked by Jia Yan again. Let's do this, you give me half of the spirit fruit. I won't eat yours from now on, and you don't eat mine either, or I will tell my brother that you will take me to trick or treat. Jia Lin expressed that she wanted to die together with Edisha. And the mischief she was talking about was the fact that when the 2 of them ran away from home, they opened the door to the underworld without permission and went to the area ruled by the Xinhe temple to cause war and destruction. It seems that they helped in this matter, but it may not be a help. When Edisha came back, she was a little self-reflective, saying that they had helped that area. If the Xinbei Temple Alliance army thought it was a high-risk area, they would send more. If they send troops there and end up destroying the area that was just occupied, then they have committed a crime. Then, okay, I'll give you half. You can't tell your brothers and others that this matter will get into our stomachs. Edisha pursed her lips and waved her hand reluctantly. Half of the Lingguo Lingcha flew up, fell into the vessel, and was handed over to Jia Lin's hand. But after the 2 of them looked at each other for a few times, they suddenly became a little distracted and didn't even have the appetite to eat the spiritual fruit. Since it was related to the area ruled by the Xinhe Alliance, they were naturally a little worried as to whether the life there was really in ruins. Edisha, how about we go over and have a look? Just take a look, no matter how they fight. Jia Lin still lacked some composure and suggested tentatively. That's what you said. Well, let's go and take a look. If there's a fight, we'll run away. If there's no fight, we'll go see if it's been beaten to pieces by the people from the Xinbei temple. With a bit of reluctance, Edisha took out the small door to the world that she secretly made, waved her hand, and opened the door to the world. The 2 little kids looked left and right, knowing that no soul dared to spy on them, the 2 majestic gods from the underworld. They immediately smiled, looked at each other, and got into the door of the real world. At the same time, on the other side of the gate of the present world is the area ruled by the Xinhe temple. Jia Yan is busy in this starry sky. It's a few hundred words short. You can see it in an hour if you subscribe to Chidion.com. Thank you for your support of the official subscription. Then, okay, I'll give you half. You can't tell your brothers and others that this matter will get into our stomachs. Adisha pursed her lips and waved her hand reluctantly. Half of the linguo lingcha flew up, fell into the vessel, and was handed over to Jia Lin's hand. But after the two of them looked at each other for a few times, they suddenly became a little distracted and didn't even have the appetite to eat the spiritual fruit. Since it involves the area ruled by the Xinhe alliance, please naturally, they were a little worried as to whether the people there were really in ruins. Adisha, how about we go over and have a look? Just take a look, no matter how they fight. Jia Lin still lacked some composure and suggested tentatively. That's what you said. Well, let's go and take a look. If there's a fight, we'll run away. If there's no fight, we'll go see if it's been beaten to pieces by the people from the Xinbei temple. With a bit of reluctance, Adisha took out the small door to the world that she secretly made, waved her hand, and opened the door to the world. The two little kids looked left and right, knowing that no soul dared to spy on them, two majestic gods from the underworld. They immediately smiled, looked at each other, and got into the door of the real world. At the same time, on the other side of the gate of the present world is the area ruled by the Xinhe temple. Jia Yan is busy in this starry sky. Coming early is worse than coming by chance. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2715. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about his response strategy, the communication soldiers below suddenly came to report, making Jia Yan's eyes brighten. He had almost forgotten the so-called mysterious master after not appearing for so many days. Now that this powerful man appeared again, it was a perfect timing. With the cooperation of this so-called mysterious strong man, I can take the lead. After this battle, let's see if the Xinbei temple will send a large number of troops to contain me. A powerful man at the level of a venerable, probably at the peak of the venerable's strength, naturally does not matter to Jia Yan, he can kill him easily. But because he needed to hide his identity, the help of this strong man was quite useful. In addition, the progress of the underworld disruption strategy I sent is obvious to all. The number of Xinbei Temple Alliance troops who came to attack this place has obviously been reduced a lot. Jia Yan is quite satisfied with the progress in attracting attention to this area. The victory of the last battle brought the Xinbei Temple Alliance army to a halt. Information from the rear showed that there were signs of internal strife in the Xinbei Temple Alliance. After that, the two sides began to drag their feet. Although the Xinbei Temple Alliance army performed well, Jia Yan was extremely dissatisfied, and it seemed that the White God Alliance army was not much better. Internal strife and the threat of a mysterious strong man caused their advancement to be extremely slow. Generally speaking, Jia Yan is satisfied with the current situation of the Xinhe Alliance army, because it is not good to be too powerful. If too many enemies are attracted, this place will become a meat-grinding ground. If he does not want to open the main battlefield here, then they can only give in, but after handing over this place may also become the front line of the White God System's attack on the Black God System's territory, which will run counter to the original wish. On the other side, a large number of warships were in chaos. The Xinbei Alliance fleet, which was originally afraid of the mysterious strong man, was retreating steadily due to the appearance of the mysterious strong man. They were on tenterhooks. The mysterious strong man has not revealed his true identity for the time being, but his strength has been revealed. It is the power of the Black God that makes those who use the power of the White God naturally disgusted. And it is still the kind of pure Black God power. The two sides fight as if they have encountered a natural nemesis, restraining each other. At this time, it depends on who is stronger. Unfortunately, the mysterious strong man who beat the world to pieces, obviously stronger than them. Damn it, hasn't the top powerhouse you requested from above arrived yet? If he doesn't come, we won't be able to hold on any longer. If those so-called visitors from the underworld hadn't delayed the rear adjustments, an invincible strongman would have arrived. Unfortunately, if there were two invincible strongmen, they would definitely crush this mysterious man to ashes. Don't worry. There may be a causal relationship between the rear affairs and the war here. Otherwise, why would this strong man be so unscrupulous? Why are there suddenly so many changes in the rear in the past few days? Aren't they covering for each other? You mean? On the battleship, most of the several great masters at the venerable level were killed or fled. The remaining ones were intimidated by the majesty of the mysterious and powerful man, and no one dared to show up again. They discussed matters, chatted, and gasped in various ways. I feel like there are big hands working on the front here, but there is no way to apply for more support from above. Boom. While they were talking about the content, they heard a warship on the front line explode like thunder again, turning it into ruins. The figure of the mysterious strong man appeared briefly at the wreckage of the battleship. He seemed to be much smaller than ordinary humans, but his speed was too fast and no one could see it clearly. It is indeed the petite creature mentioned in the information. Is it a strong beast? Several venerables were silent. They no longer dared to take the initiative to send masters to fight. This seemingly insignificant top master had killed too many of their people. Don't worry, we haven't figured out this fighting method accurately. She will only destroy a few battleships in a small area, and then she will disappear. The venerable masters seemed to have trouble sleeping and eating, but they gradually figured out the whereabouts of the mysterious master. It is true that this mysterious master is powerful, but he often only chooses to leave calmly after defeating a few battleships. I don't know if this is called a tactic, or if there are any restrictions on his shots. I don't know if this group of strong men really guessed it correctly, but the figures of several battleships that were defeated in a row in the distance, after being in a daze for a moment, disappeared behind the ruins in the blink of an eye, coming and going without a trace. The several great masters at this end also let out a long sigh of relief. She left again this time, and the way she left was very similar to the way the souls left behind the planet mentioned. This matter must be reported. I hope she won't come next time, otherwise it will be difficult for us to resist. The figure that caused a bloody storm got into the dark crack, and she was holding someone in her hand. Jialin, these people haven't destroyed the Xinhe temple area, so we don't have to worry. The little girl with pink makeup immediately beamed with smiles after flying out of the space. Jialin beside her also nodded slightly excitedly. Yes, I didn't expect that these people from the Xinbei temple are very useless. Even though their strength far exceeds that of the Xinhe Temple Alliance army, they are still advancing so slowly. Maybe there are also experts in the Xinhe Alliance army. It's definitely not as good as Adita. Yes, Adisha, you are the most powerful. Adisha was praised by Jialin, but she just missed finding Bei. The two of them seemed to be arrogant and reckless in that land of stars, but in fact the danger was not that great, because the convenience of the passage to the underworld was their final and strongest guarantee. Moreover, Jia Yan has left a backup force on them. If a god-level master really emerges, this power can delay it for a moment. It only needs to be delayed until Jia Yan arrives in an instant. Presumably with today's Jia Yan's ability is still easy enough. However, just now I felt that the Xinhe Temple Alliance army was so powerful that I was shocked. Otherwise, Edisha would not have left so early. The Xinhe Temple Alliance army actually still has such a powerful force. Then we don't have to worry about them, and we can go there less often in the future, otherwise your brother might scold us if he finds out our whereabouts. Edisha is not afraid of anything, but she is afraid of being scolded by Jia Yan. No matter how she said it, she was the intellectual brain who once called Jia Yan master. With that memory in her body, even though she has become an independent personality today, she is still afraid of being looked at with disappointment by Jia Yan. She feels that this is the limit of her life. Well, let's stop going there. Besides, we've all returned to the temple and haven't run away from home. If we want to go to other planets, we can go there openly. Jialin nodded vigorously. In fact, unlike Edisha, she was not very interested in going to that battlefield to cause trouble. It was not that she thought this matter would not be helpful to the black gods, but that she thought that she was just being a drag when she went there. Bottle, if you don't feel any sense of participation at all, it's better not to go. They were both good at it. After the big incident, they seemed to be covering their ears and stealing the bell. They said they couldn't go, so they just stopped going. Maybe it would take a long time for the mystery of this matter to be revealed to them. On Jia Yan's side, fortunately, he was not hidden for too long. Because after thinking for a while, he still made up his mind to see what this so-called mysterious strong man really looked like, so he slightly activated the power of his true body. In less than half a second, he couldn't laugh or cry. It turned out to be these two little brats. He also said why his ears have become clearer recently. It turned out that they came here to cause trouble while they were running away from home. Okay, if it's them, there's no need to think about the purpose of coming. Just go back and beat them up to stop them from running around. After all, the white gods are about to make a move recently. Ordinary strong men can deal with these two little guys. But when they encounter people from the white god department, they can't even escape. Jia Yan was full of energy and prepared to launch a new campaign, and his goal was not to win a big victory, but to block the next batch of Xinbei Temple coalition troops from outside the defense line. The purpose is to block, and the central idea of the entire battle is to attract the enemy's attention. This is the central principle. And not only in this area, but also in the vast area currently occupied by the White God system, there are souls wandering around on a large number of planets, causing big incidents from time to time. The souls began to have a considerable impact on the areas controlled by the Xinbei Temple, including hindering the formation of troops to support the front line. Those strong souls who come and go are even more arrogant every time they appear. On some planets with fewer strong people, people are on guard at night. The strong ones guard the sky above the city, while the weak ones they were cowering there. Even if the so-called souls turned into the appearance of ordinary people or strong men when they came, no one would believe them. But there are still people who are wavering. If one person in 100 or even 1,000 people believes that the soul is transformed by a deceased relative, that is the collapse of their faith. It is very likely that they will not work for the Black Temple for the time being, but they suddenly have this kind of possibility. As a result, those planetary forces were ready to prepare for the appearance of the soul. Even though the Xinbei Temple issued many messages saying that the matter would be resolved by the Xinbei Temple, so that the ruling forces on their respective planets could allocate manpower to the front line to assist in the battle, they still greatly affected the output of troops. This is one of Jia Yan's arrangements. Not only the people of the White God Department, but also the local senior officials in the Xinbei Temple have thought of this. They sent a large number of lobbyists to the local forces on the major planets to lobby, but with little success. The gods of the Baishan system and the Xinbei Temple are, after all, just religious forces. On the surface, they control the entire star field, but within their own forces, there are very few planets that are truly completely controlled by the Xinbei Temple. It is often the case that the Xinbei Temple supports certain people or families to come to power, and they control the situation behind the scenes. Because Xinbei Temple doesn't have that much energy, and whatever they want to do, it's better to have a spokesperson, because not everything is upright, and the existence of those families, in addition to maintaining their rule, is also the scapegoat. But that was an excellent practice in peacetime, but now that times have changed and it's wartime, the shortcomings of the original approach of Nobubai Temple have become apparent. The time limit for their orders to the ruling forces on various planets is too long. There are even people who are both obedient and treacherous. Because the gate of the underworld has affected the ruling foundation of a large number of forces, those revived souls, under the leadership of the strong souls, are even resentful souls who died under the major forces. These resentful souls come out in person to name and say who killed them. Even if they cannot be used as evidence in court, if they tell the world or important people, the whole incident will be exposed, which will also cause problems in the rule. Naturally, those forces do not want the souls to be killed. More shows up. Therefore, they are unwilling to send more strong men. These strong men must strictly guard themselves within their own power to prevent their souls from coming back and expose their evil deeds to the public. Those souls haven't come here in the past 2 days. Are they afraid of being beaten? Last time, a soul at the level of a venerable was seriously injured. Far away from the border, a young man worked hard every day. With the joy of his master and parents, he gradually entered the genius speed of martial arts that was getting better and better. Even the master wanted to trust the White Temple with his information so that he could get guidance from a stronger expert. But the young man refused, saying that his talent was not enough. The parents of the master felt great relief, thinking that this child was not too talented, and that he was indeed not very talented. It was commendable that the child could hold back and not show off. But young people know their own affairs only from their own family. He is paying attention to soul matters, and has been looking to see if he can contact these souls, to see if the other party is a subordinate of Lord Jiayan. If so, he has a stable contact method, and can even communicate with these souls. To deliver supplies, etc., maybe you can also use that channel to shuttle to the outside world and meet Master Jiayan in person. Of course, he didn't know what the soul channel was, or what it was like to meet, but it was enough to hope that he could convey the information that he was here. But the opportunity never came. I don't know if these souls are performing other tasks in the outside world. There has been a lot of turmoil on the entire planet recently. Several troops have launched into the sky. It is said to be an exercise to the outside world, but the momentum and the appearance of leaving in a hurry can't be found at Chiyuan, I'm afraid. Things are not that simple. As a great master, the young man is definitely not just a child as simple as he appears. Just when the young man's strength improved rapidly and he wandered the streets at night, pretending to be an ordinary little boy living on the streets, his eyes moved slightly. It turned out that not far from the street where he was, a group of pitch-black souls walked out silently from the cracked black door in groups. Be careful. This planet is close to the central area of the White God system. There are countless powerful people. Last time, a high-level soul of a venerable almost encountered an accident. The difference is more than 100 words, you can see it after refreshing the original version in half an hour. It's just a subtitle. Just when the young man's strength improved rapidly and he wandered the streets at night, pretending to be an ordinary little boy living on the streets, his eyes moved slightly. It turned out that not far from the street where he was, a group of pitch-black souls walked out silently from the cracked black door in groups. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2716. The Soul Masters were frightened. They had already investigated the surroundings. Not to mention ordinary teenagers, even powerful venerables would be investigated by them. What happened to this young man? And what's with the black mist surrounding his body? Where does such pure black energy come from? Before he finished speaking, each of the powerful soul warriors who were fighting had sinister expressions on their faces. After looking at each other, one of them drew his knife and the blade reached the young man's neck in the blink of an eye. Although he doesn't want to kill innocent people indiscriminately, it is best not to expose his whereabouts, otherwise there will be great danger. I am from the Black God Department, the young man said suddenly with a calm expression. Card. The blade stopped just a millimeter away from the young man's neck. The soul man who drew the sword looked strange and looked at the young man again coldly. The young man was about 8 or 9 years old, and his appearance was not much different from that of an ordinary human boy. However, his motionless demeanor and the strange black power emanating from his body made it impossible to ignore him. This energy, if you look at it now, is obviously the extremely high power of the Black God. Who are you? The flag planted by the Black Gods. The soul man asked calmly and continued to maintain strong pressure. The young man discovered that he had not killed anyone, and many of the soul masters behind him had expressions of surprise and relief. He knew that he had made the right bet. These powerful souls are all related to the Black God sect, perhaps it is the means arranged by my lord and others. Soul. Hell. It's a good idea. Just think of me as a flag planted by the Black Gods, but now my relationship with the gods has been severed. I wonder if you can help me contact them. Everyone in Seoul looked suspicious, and they didn't know what they said using the energy transmission method. These people sent one of them. Young man, I hope you are not using a delaying strategy. I will take you back to have a look. If you deceive me, you will not be able to pass any information to the White God Department even if you know how we are coming. These soul men still had doubts, but they had agreed that one of them would lead the boy back the same way, while the others continued to perform their tasks. Take me away. So, the way you came here can indeed lead people. The young man looked thoughtfully and there was no room left for the gate of the present world, which made the faces of these soulful men even weirder. This young man seems to be really different from ordinary young people, he has a special feeling. As for what was unusual, they couldn't tell. It was probably his demeanor or the black power emanating from his body. Several soul men divided into two groups, one person transporting the young man, which can also be regarded as escorting the young man, towards the direction of the gate of the living world. Soon he opened the gap, allowing the young man to get into it thoughtfully again. The other road was rushing towards certain directions in the city according to the original plan. Not long after, there was a loud explosion in the city. The strong men in the city were furious and roaring. But not long after, these powerful souls, the attackers, quickly lost their traces, causing the alarm sound of the Deccan Bay Temple to dissipate. Not mentioning the battle situation, just saying that the strong soul who entered the gate of the world with the young man quickly traveled through the black space and came to the world on the other side. The soul man was doubtful. Ordinary young people would be shocked if they experienced this kind of world turned upside down. But the young man who followed him had a calm expression, as if he was not the one who traveled through the world, and his attitude was calm. "Little brother, are you not afraid?" he asked. "Don't be afraid of anything. I'm familiar with this." The young man smiled and didn't explain much. Of course he is familiar with this scene. This scene is like Mr. Jia Yan tearing open the subspace. After using yin and yang dao in the outside world, he has also learned a lot of ways to use subspace. Even the tactics are quite mature. Now in this world, how could I be shocked and moved at all when seeing similar methods? Rather than being shocked, I was surprised. I didn't expect Master Jia Yan to be able to use last-dimensional means to create a powerful pattern in this strange world. The so-called underworld. After understanding that the so-called gate to the real world was a variant of the subspace usage, he became even more moved by the world in front of him. After looking at it for a moment, his expression became serious. This world is not so much connected to the outside world as it is another world, and it is actually connected to the previous world. Is this what Lady Edisha is doing secretly? It is simply shocking. He was a little surprised that Editha, a smart brain whose ability seemed to be astonishing, could actually do such a shocking thing under the eyes of her enemy's smart brain without being noticed by the other party. This is not just an ordinary creation of a virtual world. That kind of virtualization only requires a certain amount of calculation, plus a huge amount of energy and materials. Even his family's brain can barely do it. Of course, it takes hundreds of years. Lovely Disha's brain is so powerful. She used tricks to secretly absorb the other party's resources to create such a world, and she also connected with the world created by the other party. In this kind of thing, she is at least 2 levels better than the other party. She can make a judgment. That's the temple of my god over there. If you are brave, come with me to see my god. If you have a ghost in your heart, confess it now. Maybe because you are a child, I will keep you alive. Corpses can even turn into souls and be reborn in this world. The man pointed calmly at the endless palace in the distance. No need, take me to see the Lord God. The young man smiled and shook his head. Although I don't know who the so-called God is, it must be one of Lord Jiayan's old friends, or it may even be Lord Jiayan himself. He was full of energy and moved to keep up with the strong soul who was leading the way. The strong man had secretly sent a message while walking. After all, he is still a subordinate, and he does not dare to casually bring a guy whose identity is a mystery to meet Lord Yama, otherwise this person will be unfavorable to Lord Yama, and he will be criticized by thousands of people. At this moment, Edisha, who had just returned from running away from home, was lying in her own palace of the King of Hell, among the piles of snacks piled up like a hill, munching on all kinds of snacks. She doesn't worry about whether her teeth will be damaged or whether it will be bad for her health. She has such strength that she is not afraid of these things. So feast on the food, and if you can't eat any more, turn it into energy and keep eating. It's too bitter outside, and we don't even have that much to eat. Then please Lord Yama, please don't run away from home again. You see, we are all worried to death. Beside him, there was a soul woman begging with a wry smile. Okay, I won't run away from home in the future, I'll go out to play at most, Edisha nodded vigorously. She found that running away from home with Jialin, no one could threaten anyone, was very boring. From now on, she could leave when she wanted to play and come back when she wanted to eat. Isn't it nice of him to do this as he pleases? Someone sent a message? Let me take a look. Editha chewed, her cheeks puffed up like little squirrels, and suddenly opened the communicator in her hand to read the message on it. Venerable masters are rare in the underworld, so everyone has a way to directly contact Edisha. She opened the communicator, read the message on it, swallowed all the snacks, and frowned. There is a strange boy who wants to see me. Humph, let me see who he is. You ask this boy to come over. Edisha jumped out from the pile of snacks and replied to the message. Take care of it for me, I have a guest to see. Editha changed her indifferent attitude and asked the soul woman next to her to help organize the clothes. She knew that the person who would be personally brought by the venerable soul was definitely not an ordinary boy. Besides, Jia Yan had already scolded her last time. She was not like the Lord of Hell, which was very bad. After a while, the young man was led through the streets and alleys, with a strange expression on his face, and entered the main hall filled with a large number of toys and amusement supplies. This young man originally thought that he should be the youngest one after traveling into this world. Because of his young age, his brain could not withstand the overwhelming flood of memories, which caused a long delay in recovering his memory. But he never expected that the first colleague he saw looked younger than himself in this world. A seemingly aloof little girl, about 5 or 6 years old, with seriousness and majesty written all over her delicate face. From the moment he walked in, her eyes did not move away from his face. Edisha also immediately noticed that this young man was different. No wonder the soul subordinate would bring this person to him. In particular, his magnanimity and energy proclaimed that he was extraordinary. This young man does not pretend to be a young man. He has a strong demeanor that cannot be concealed. He is absolutely powerful and has a feeling of indifference to the world. Even if he enters the underworld that he has never entered before, he cannot be moved in the slightest. Look. In addition, there is the power of his body. The power of the Black God is extremely rich. What is even more dignified is the purity of this power. Edisha has already gathered the power of the Black God with the help of Jia Yan, but at this time, under the young man's control, I could actually feel the pure level of his power on my body, which was even more powerful than Edisha's. The young man frowned. He was even stranger. If he had still suspected that the little girl was one of his colleagues before, now after observing the little girl a few more times, he began to think otherwise. Or so he thought, but it was difficult to identify the little girl. The little girl does not have the magnanimity of the strong men outside. And from the twinkling of her starry eyes, I found that not only was her demeanor different, but she also seemed to be 5 or 6 years old. It's 1,000 words short. The original version will be updated in an hour. He was a little surprised. Editha's intelligence seemed to have astonishing abilities. She was actually under the nose of the enemy's intelligence without being noticed by the other party. To do such a shocking thing. This is not just an ordinary creation of a virtual world. That kind of virtualization only requires a certain amount of calculation, plus a huge amount of energy and materials. Even his family's brain can barely do it. Of course, it takes hundreds of years. Lovely Disha's brain is so powerful. She used tricks to secretly absorb the other party's resources to create such a world, and she also connected with the world created by the other party. In this kind of thing, she is at least 2 levels better than the other party. She can make a judgment. That's the temple of my God over there. If you are brave, come with me to see my God. If you have a ghost in your heart, confess it now. Maybe because you are a child, I will keep you alive. Corpses can even turn into souls and be reborn in this world. The man pointed calmly at the endless palace in the distance. No need, take me to see the Lord God. The young man smiled and shook his head. Although I don't know who the so-called God is, it must be one of Lord Jia Yan's old friends, or it may even be Lord Jia Yan himself. He was full of energy and moved to keep up with the strong soul who was leading the way. The strong man had secretly sent a message while walking. After all, he is still a subordinate, and he does not dare to casually bring a guy whose identity is a mystery to meet Lord Yama, otherwise this person will be unfavorable to Lord Yama, and he will be criticized by thousands of people. At this moment, Edisha, who had just returned from running away from home, was lying in her own palace of the King of Hell, among the piles of snacks piled up like a hill, munching on all kinds of snacks. She doesn't worry about whether her teeth will be damaged or whether it will be bad for her health. She has such strength that she is not afraid of these things. So feast on the food, and if you can't eat any more, turn it into energy and keep eating. It's too bitter outside, and we don't even have that much to eat. Then please Lord Yama, please don't run away from home again. You see, we are all worried to death. Beside him, there was a soul woman begging with a wry smile. Okay, I won't run away from home in the future, I'll go out to play at most, Edisha nodded vigorously. She found that running away from home with Jiolin, no one could threaten anyone, was very boring. From now on, she could leave when she wanted to play and come back when she wanted to eat. Isn't it nice of him to do this as he pleases? Someone sent a message? Let me take a look. Editha chewed, her cheeks puffed up like little squirrels, and suddenly opened the communicator in her hand to read the message on it. Venerable masters are rare in the underworld. So everyone has a way to contact Edisha directly. She opened the communicator, read the message on it, swallowed all the snacks, and frowned. There is a strange boy who wants to see me. Humph, let me see who he is. You ask this boy to come over. Edisha jumped out from the pile of snacks and replied to the message. Take care of it for me, I have a guest to see. Editha changed her indifferent attitude and asked the soul woman next to her to help organize the clothes. She knew that the person who would be personally brought by the venerable soul was definitely not an ordinary boy. Besides, Jia Yan had already scolded her last time. She was not like the Lord of Hell, which was very bad. After a while, the young man was led through the streets and alleys, with a strange expression on his face, and entered the main hall filled with a large number of toys and amusement supplies. How bad the Lord of Hell is! After a while, The young man was led through the streets and alleys, with a strange expression on his face, and entered the main hall filled with a large number of toys and amusement supplies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2717. After Leda came to this world, he has not been able to recover his memory, which shows that his strength in the outside world is indeed a bit weaker. Compared with his stronger subordinates, he is indeed a bit weaker. Of course, it's also the galaxy level, not much different. While Adisha was happy, she opened the communicator and sent a message, which was for Jia Yan. Not long after, under Leda's expectant gaze, a young man of 15 or 16 years old walked into the palace of hell with peaceful steps. I've met Lord Jia Yan. Leda bowed directly without any doubt. He was familiar with Jia Yan's aura, and also knew Jia Yan's clone on Earth. The young man and the clone were printed in the same mold, so he naturally recognized it as Jia Yan at a glance. Finally found you, great. What planet are you on now? Jia Yan smiled and nodded. There is no such thing as the ecstasy of long separation, not even Leda. For strong people like them, fighting and taking risks in another world is not extremely dangerous. At best, it is just seeing the other person in this world. After the body, there is some freshness. Most rejoicing. Master Jia Yan, I happen to be in the central planet ruled by the White God system. Speaking of which, it is thanks to the power of the passage in this underworld, otherwise I would not be able to return to you. Leda briefly talked about his experience in a young man's voice. So that's it? You are so close to the White God Department's headquarters. As you said, you don't have to abandon this identity. I'm afraid they can't imagine that there will be a master next to me lurking close to them. Maybe a war will begin. At that time, it was just a chess piece. Jia Yan agreed with Leda's spy strategy. After all, Leda was not indispensable to this side. It was inevitable to send him out as a latent pawn. Then you should come and play more often in the future, Aditha shouted loudly. Leda was a little surprised. This Hineo is indeed a little different. She expresses a lot of her own opinions, and Master Jia Yan doesn't seem to restrict her thoughts. It was quite strange for him to see what was once an intellectual brain now transformed into a living being with self-awareness. Okay, I also want to come here often to exchange information, so I will come often. Rita smiled. While waiting for Jia Yan, he roughly learned how to open the underworld from Edisha. Edisha also gave him a mini door to the present world. Now Leda cannot tear apart the underworld space. But with the door of the present world, you can enter anytime and anywhere. You first use the energy here to practice and rush to the starry sky level. Over there, try to hide your strength as much as possible. After you gain a firm foothold, you can then spy on intelligence. Yes. Jia Yan didn't issue any warnings. They were all strong men, and Leda had also experienced adventures in the central star field of the Milky Way, so he still understood this common sense. Jia Yan thinks he can do things with peace of mind. Otherwise, he would not be accepted as a subordinate. Leda rested in the hall of the King of Hell all night, and it was not until the day came when the star that governed the system close to the White God came to about daytime that he bid farewell to Jia Yan Edisha from the hall of the King of Hell and set out again with great loyalty. In this night, he was close to the starry sky level. Although he had not yet broken through, even if he did not come to the underworld, he would be able to break through if given a night or two. There is nothing to be shocked about. Before he came here, he had already quietly broken through to the heaven level. This was the speed he could reach through cultivation in a deceptive way. Go back and spend 2 days to upgrade to the starry sky level, and you can play a greater role. Leda changed from the rootless duckweed feeling he had in the past 2 days, and his whole person became more majestic. And watching him use the reality gate to get into the hometown of his body, Jia Yan nodded slightly in the palace of hell. Adisha, Leda's sighed, I think he will definitely be of great use in the future. Think carefully about the role he can play. In 2 days, I will use him to come up with a slow-down plan. The current Xiaoxian University. As for the stars, the pressure is still a bit high. Okay. Edisha nodded vigorously. She was used to Jia Yan giving her tasks. Even Edisha feels like she's in charge. Of course it is. Jia Yan didn't say that on another battlefield, he was thinking of ways to change directions and delay the Xinbei Alliance army. Anyway, if this matter was mentioned, it didn't seem to have much impact. After giving all these instructions, Jia Yan drifted away. Adisha, is my brother here? Not long after he left, Jia Lin's little head poked her head at the door of the Palace of Hell. Come and leave, let's go play. Adisha jumped up and down, seemingly forgetting Jia Yan's instructions. That's not good. We just came back from running away from home and running around again. No, let's go play there last time. Edisha found a very interesting place. Here's the information she found in the battleship that was destroyed last time. Editha seemed to have turned into a little Ji now who didn't know how to live or die at this time. She was not afraid of people's anger at all. She took Jia Lin's little hand and the two of them sneakily ran to the gate area of the world. They found a huge gate that reached the sky and got through it. Into it. Jia Yan, on the other hand, just got out of the front line of the Xinbei Alliance army and nodded quietly in secret. My lord, fortunately we have lived up to our mission. We managed to defend the last war. Now the two sides are in a balanced situation. They can't do anything to us, and we can't fight back. Behind Jia Yan, the old general reported the information calmly. I just need you to confront each other. Of course, in addition to confrontation, it is best to give me a few small victories. My purpose is very simple, which is to let the enemy send as many strong men as possible, at the venerable level. You know me, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big victory, but it needs to attract as much attention as possible from this area. This, I understand. The old general looked thoughtfully at Jia Yan. As a veteran warrior, he knew very well that Jia Yan's behavior seemed to be attracting the attention of the Xinbei Alliance. No, it may attract not only the Xinbei Alliance, but also the entire Baishan system. Then, it may be necessary to attract the forces of the White God sect, or there may be forces hostile to the White God section. Thinking of this, the old general took a deep breath and quickly lowered his head, not daring to look at Jia Yan anymore. If the person in front of him is really under the orders of the Black Gods, or even one of the gods of the Black Gods, then he is really a big shot far beyond what he and others imagined. He didn't dare to offend. And if the identity of this young man is really that noble, I am worried that the war in this area will turn into a strong one and a weak one, with no foundation and no foundation, which will be self-defeating. Now in this area, the generals on those planets are unable to work hard, and they are not willing to lose lives. The reason is that they are afraid in their hearts, and they believe that if there is no follow-up reinforcements from the Black Temple, then they will be miserable. You don't have to think wildly. I didn't deliberately hide my identity or your escape route from you. Anyway, don't worry, you won't regret what you did today in the future. Jia Yan smiled slightly, as if he had guessed the inner fluctuations of the old general. My subordinates will naturally trust you. The old general's heart skipped a beat and he quickly handed over his hand again. But when he bowed and stood up, he saw that there was still the mysterious and powerful young man in front of him. No matter he came or went, this young man seemed to be silent. Even he, who was close to the peak of the venerable, even experts can't detect it. If he thought before that the young man must have used some powerful tool from the Black Temple, then his speculation just now gave him some more imagination. He had already suddenly thought in his heart, could this young man himself be one of the black gods? He almost lost his temper. Encountering a real god is something that no one in this world can deal with calmly. Jia Yan entered the passage of the underworld, and instead of going to the palace of hell, he went straight to Xinhaizing, where he was now mainly in charge. On the planet, there is a large amount of energy that is constantly being transported. Don't forget, his main purpose in this world is not war. His purpose is to compete with the white dolphin, and finally differentiate, seize the opponent's energy, devour everything the opponent has, and use the opponent's flesh and blood as a stepping stone to successfully become a more powerful domain lord. Therefore, the competition between them will always be only for energy. Regardless of the arrangements of subordinates, the fight for planets, or the grabbing of people's hearts, there is only one ultimate goal, and that is energy. Once you seize the energy, you must devour and digest it all to strengthen yourself and your subordinates, improve your strength, and gain insights from the other party. During this period of time, Jia Yan devoured a large amount of various powers. Among these powers, there are only two types of energy, white energy and black energy. The white energy is larger, and it can swallow more. Call. In the secret room of seclusion, Jia Yan let out a long breath. The entire thousands of square meters of energy solidified in front of him was absorbed by him. Recently, his strength has been increasing day by day, and the energy materials coming from various planets can no longer keep up with his devouring. The power of the white dolphin, is this really what it is? He is indeed a person with a deep mind. I don't believe it. Concubine Kun, is it really so easy for Concubine Kun to take this person into her hands? Don't turn around for this person. I made a wedding dress, but it has nothing to do with me. It's 1,000 words short. The original version will be updated in an hour. The old general looked thoughtfully at Jia Yan. As a veteran warrior, he knew very well that Jia Yan's behavior seemed to be attracting the attention of the Xinbei alliance. No, it may attract not only the Xinbei alliance, but also the entire Baishan system. Then, it may be necessary to attract the forces of the White God sect, or there may be forces hostile to the White God section. Thinking of this, the old general took a deep breath and quickly lowered his head, not daring to look at Jia Yan anymore. If the person in front of him is really under the orders of the Black Gods, or even one of the gods of the Black Gods, then he is really a big shot far beyond what he and others imagined. He didn't dare to offend. And if the identity of this young man is really that noble, I am worried that the war in this area will turn into a strong one and a weak one, with no foundation and no foundation, which will be self-defeating. Now in this area, the generals on those planets are unable to work hard, and they are not willing to lose lives. The reason is that they are afraid in their hearts, and they believe that if there is no follow-up reinforcements from the Black Temple, then they will be miserable. You don't have to think wildly. I didn't deliberately hide my identity or your escape route from you. Anyway, don't worry, you won't regret what you did today in the future. Jia Yan smiled slightly, as if he had guessed the inner fluctuations of the old general. My subordinates will naturally trust you. The old general's heart skipped a beat and he quickly handed over his hand again. But when he bowed and stood up, he saw that there was still the mysterious and powerful young man in front of him. No matter he came or went, this young man seemed to be silent. Even he, who was close to the peak of the venerable, even experts can't detect it. If he thought before that the young man must have used some powerful tool from the Black Temple, then his speculation just now gave him some more imagination. He had already suddenly thought in his heart, could this young man himself be one of the Black Gods? He almost lost his temper. Encountering a real god is something that no one in this world can deal with calmly. Jia Yan entered the passage of the underworld, and instead of going to the palace of hell, he went straight to Xinhaizing, where he was now mainly in charge. On the planet, there is a large amount of energy that is constantly being transported. Don't forget, his main purpose in this world is not war. His purpose is to compete with the white dolphin, and finally differentiate, seize the opponent's energy, devour everything the opponent has, and use the opponent's flesh and blood as a stepping stone to successfully become a more powerful domain lord. Therefore, the competition between them will always be only for energy. Regardless of the arrangements of subordinates, the fight for planets, or the grabbing of people's hearts, there is only one ultimate goal, and that is energy. Once you seize the energy, you must devour and digest it all to strengthen yourself and your subordinates, improve your strength, and gain insights from the other party. During this period of time, Jia Yan swallowed up a lot of various powers. Among these powers, there are only two types of energy, white energy and black energy. The white energy is larger, and it can swallow more. Call. In the secret room of seclusion, Jia Yan let out a long breath. The entire thousands of square meters of energy solidified in front of him was absorbed by him. Recently, his strength has been increasing day by day, and the energy materials coming from various planets can no longer keep up with his devouring. The power of the white dolphin, is this really what it is? He is indeed a person with a deep mind. I don't believe it. Concubine Kun, is it really so easy for Concubine Kun to take this person into her hands? Don't turn around for this person. I made a wedding dress, but it has nothing to do with me. It's 1,000 words short, the original version will be refreshed in an hour. He is indeed a deep-minded person, but I don't believe it. How could Concubine Kun really have this person in her hands so easily? Don't make a wedding dress for this person in turn, but it has nothing to do with me. There is a difference of 1,000 words, the original version will be refreshed in an hour. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2718. There are many disputes on the star of cultivating immortals. The war fell into a tense situation, and the panic-stricken Xin Chen Gate seemed to have entered a situation where it had to retreat to defend and stabilize the rear after encountering obstructions from several parties. But no one dares to invade the area annexed by Xin Chen Gate, because there are lessons learned from the past. That is, 3 days ago, the two major factions that had good relations with the Chu state and the Song state formed a powerful alliance army and counterattacked the homeland with great momentum. It is said that there were 3 super strong men from the two countries in that battle, all of whom were middle-class venerables. There are even great masters from the lower ranks of the venerable waiting for opportunities behind the scenes. This military force was originally considered to be the initial battle that would bring down the Xin Chen section. It was impossible for it to be stillborn. After all, there were only so many strong men, and the military power was even more powerful. But in the unbelievable First War, the battlefield was like a meat grinder. The two coalition forces, which seemed to have greater military power and overall strength, quickly fell apart like pebbles hitting rocks. Not only did they not live up to expectations before the war, it was impossible to achieve a complete victory, even causing huge casualties to the main force of Xin Chen section. In fact, what faced this coalition force was just a partial division of Xin Chen sect, with only one venerable level force in it. But still unexpectedly one. The entire cultivation star was in an uproar. The Xin Chen sect's tactics were so unexpected. They actually only used a partial division to fight. Even this partial division was so bold that they divided their forces. Before the enemy could gather together, they divided the two great masters in two and cut them in half. The two major battlefields then used virtual and real combat methods. Both sides thought they had encountered a strong enemy, but it turned out to be false. The strongest army of Xin Chen sect came out from the rear terrain and directly killed the enemy. The allied forces of the two countries were frightened. Once the battlefield was in chaos, the chance of victory disappeared. Even the great masters were surrounded by the Xingqianmen army, and they used a unique joint strategy to fight to the death. At this time, the whole world was shocked, and no one dared to look down upon any of the Sin Chen sect troops anymore. The troops of this sect are commanded by experts behind them. He knows how to defeat the strong with the weak, and this tactic is so incredible that even the masters on the planet can't figure it out, and they don't know what cards the opponent will use. Looking back at the process of Sin Chen sect's annexation of the world, it seems that there are such tactics throughout the whole process. If it weren't for a top tactician guiding everyone from behind, no one would believe it. Anyway, no one would believe it. That young man, the head of the Sin Chen sect, a girl who is only 15 years old, has unparalleled talent and commanding talents. She is a proud person of heaven. Haha, all the people on this planet are guessing that there is an expert behind me. This is true, but this expert is probably different from what they imagined. Sitting in the middle of the majestic hall of Sin Chen Gate, Qingling calmly opened the information reading, smiling slightly. Qingwan next to her was shocked. She also saw some information about the battle situation, and then her heart was filled with turmoil. She knew who the so-called tactician was, and what was even more shocking was that she not only knew the opponent's true face, but also knew the tactics used by the head sister. It was just the tactician who cost less than 10 minutes of random writing. If the head hadn't put the paper away as a treasure, she might have thought it was just a piece of waste paper with a child's scribblings. Anyway, if she read that kind of graffiti, she would definitely not protect it. Unexpectedly, the crooked font like a child's graffiti actually has these tactics on it. Qingwan reviewed the fonts on the paper she saw and became frightened because she remembered that the little girl had written the word song and chew on the paper. Could it be that she had already written the word song and chew on the paper a few days ago? Did you guess that Song and Chu would join forces and dispatch 3 venerables? You know, that child doesn't even know a lot of common sense here. Why is his judgment of the 2 countries so accurate? Qingwan, it's disrespectful for you to pass on this information without reciprocating. Since the 2 countries of Song and Chu are attacking brazenly, we, Xingqianmen, are not the ones who passively take beatings without fighting back. We should let them suffer the consequences themselves. Qingling waved an order document down, and Qingwan quickly reached out to catch it. She didn't dare to read more, but often in this case, the words on the paper were the deciding factor. When corpses were everywhere in certain places, every time she received these orders and documents from the senior sister in charge, she always felt that the paper in her hand was as heavy as Tarzan. After Qingwan handed over the information, Qingling frowned and looked at the sky. Other strong men may not understand, but she can see some clues. This star of cultivating immortals is too important. It is so important that Xinbei Temple may no longer be secretive in the next war, but will be more proactive, and even directly send troops and strong men. There may even be one now. God, the only one who comes here to take charge is sex. Qingwan is not afraid of anyone on the immortal cultivation star, nor is she afraid of any master in the Xinbei Temple, but she is still quite wary of the White God system. The White Dolphin subordinates have fought against each other in the outside world, and both sides have won and lost. It can be said to be wishful thinking to imagine that fighting with them is as simple as dealing with the strong men in the local world. I have a hunch that even if Mr. Jia Yan has tried every means to make this place no longer attract the attention of the Xinbei Temple, a war between gods will eventually break out here. I just don't know. When the time comes, it will be our Black God department. With the White Gods, if they fight in a group here, there will only be 1 or 2 gods fighting here. Qingling was thinking in her heart. The best result is that only 1 or 2 powerful gods will come here. Her strength has also been steadily improving recently. If a small number of white gods come here, she will not be afraid. Relying on yin and yang dao, 1 can match or even defeat, 2 can protect themselves, and 3 will at least have a chance to open the passage to the underworld and escape. It seems that this will be my first and fiercest battlefield in this world. There may be gods over there now. I don't know who it is. Qingling has gradually stopped attacking in all directions so crazily recently, not because she was really blocked, but because the spirit of the Zinbei temple that she had caught a glimpse of last time gave her a huge impact. The white god who uses the six-pointed star to teleport magic is probably astonishingly powerful, and his status may not be low. Of course, his true combat power is unknown. Only through that discovery did she understand that the white god system might have set its sights on this planet. I don't know what Mr. Jia Yan will think after knowing the information about this place. Maybe he won't give too much guidance. What we need to do now is to stabilize the existing territory, and then proceed steadily. Taking over the Xiaoxian star is the first priority. Mission: even if Your Excellency knows the news about this place, maybe at most you can send someone to come and help. Qingling looked into the distance, and the feeling of a strong person gradually rose in her heart. The war is not far away. For strong people of their level, the sense of crisis and worry can be said to be a prophecy. When they feel the crisis, it means that a powerful enemy may be nearby. Besides, sir, they are still laughing at me, saying that I am a male who entered this world in a female body, haha. Qingling laughed bitterly. The only reason is that she has always regarded herself as a genius and strong person in the outside world. It is normal for others not to recognize her race and not be able to tell whether she is a boy or a girl. In fact, she is originally a female creature, but at the galaxy level, no one can differentiate between males and females. Women are all strong men competing for opportunities. Except for some strong women who use their gender to make trouble, the vast majority of strong women will also downplay their gender. The same is true for her. Forget it, I don't want to talk so much. When the opportunity is right, I will explain it to them again. It's not too important anyway. Qingling continued to stare into the distance, which gave her an extremely strong sense of crisis. And right where Qingling was staring, there was actually another continent in this great star of cultivating immortals, a continent smaller than the one Qingling and the others were on. On this continent, it is the same turbulent era. Countless sects and countless forces, under the interference of an invisible big hand, seem to be involved in some endless grievances, and the chaotic war begins. Middle. No one can tell the reason. They only know that during this war that swept across the continent, a religious organization appeared out of nowhere. It continuously started saving and doing good deeds in the name of God, and gained the favor of countless ordinary people. Gradually, it became even more powerful. Among the immortal cultivators, many have begun to become interested in this religion, and there are even converts. This world is incomprehensible, but there are traces to be found. The human nature simulated by your computer is quite real. It is a pity that the most powerful brain in the entire area has become one with this world. It destroys the world and destroys it, and it's a waste of money. A man wearing a farmer's bamboo hat, with his arms folded, sat on a swaying carriage, looking like a wandering crane in a leisurely manner. Bandits who robbed passers-by emerged from the roadside. Before they could say anything, they were all swept away by the white light and shattered into pieces. Their organs on the ground immediately created a tragic scene of hell. You hurt people's lives and do many evil things. In the name of God, I punish you with the death penalty. The man looked through the curtains of the carriage and glanced at the group of broken bodies, smiling indifferently. For existences like them, let alone a life form that has moved from virtuality to the real world, even the lives of the weak in the real universe outside are just toy-like existences. What the man deliberately pretended not to know was that at the edge of the grass, several masters who had followed him all the way were already sweating like rain. This person is indeed as powerful as a man. What should we do? Should we persuade the leader to stop overestimating his own abilities? The two of them were still frightened, and the other shook his head and sighed, impossible. This man's request is for me to join him. The leader is usually not big-minded and thinks very highly of himself. How could he be easily fooled by this man? Subordinates, I think the leader will definitely rise up and resist. But, you and I have already seen the strength of this man. With such strength, I am afraid that a mere starry sky-level immortal cultivator like us cannot fight against him. If the master gets into trouble with him, we will easily lose our lives. Well, I heard another thing. Do you know that there are other continents in another area of our continent? You might as well. There is still 1,000 words to go. You will be able to see the original version after an hour of refreshing. Thank you for your support. There are traces to be found. The human nature simulated by your computer is quite real. It is a pity. It is the strongest in the entire area. The intelligent brain is so integrated with the world that it destroys the world and destroys it. This is simply a waste of money. A man wearing a farmer's bamboo hat, with his arms folded, sat on a swaying carriage, looking like a wandering crane in the clouds, with a leisurely attitude. Bandits who robbed passers-by emerged from the roadside. Before they could say anything, they were all swept away by the white light and shattered into pieces. Their organs on the ground immediately created a tragic scene of hell. You hurt people's lives and do many evil things. In the name of God, I punish you with the death penalty. The man looked through the curtains of the carriage and glanced at the group of broken bodies, smiling indifferently. For existences like them, let alone a life form that has moved from virtuality to the real world, even the lives of the weak in the real universe outside are just toy-like existences. What the man deliberately pretended not to know was that at the edge of the grass, several masters who had followed him all the way were already sweating like rain. This person is indeed as powerful as a man. What should we do? Should we persuade the leader to stop overestimating his own abilities? The two of them were still frightened, and the other shook his head and sighed, "It's impossible. This man's request is for me to join him." The leader is usually not big-minded and thinks highly of himself. How can I easily become this person's subordinate? According to me, the leader will definitely rise up to resist. But, you and I have already seen the strength of this man. With such strength, I am afraid that a mere starry sky-level immortal cultivator like us cannot fight against him. If the master gets into trouble with him, we will easily lose our lives. Well, I heard another thing. Do you know that there are other continents in another area of our continent? You might as well. There are still 1,000 words left. The official version will be refreshed in an hour and you will be able to see it. Thank you for your official support, but, you and I have already seen the strength of this man. With such strength, I am afraid that not a mere starry sky-level immortal cultivator like us can fight against him. Yes, if the master gets into trouble with him, we will die easily. Well, I heard another thing. Do you know that there are other continents in another area of our continent? You might as well. There is still 1,000 words left, and you will be able to see it after the official version is refreshed in an hour. Thank you for your support. If there are other continents, you might as well. There is still 1,000 words left, and you will be able to see it after the official version is refreshed in an hour. Thank you for your genuine support. If there are other continents, you might as well. There is still 1,000 words to go. You will be able to see the genuine version after an hour's refresh. Thank you for your genuine support. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2719. Jia Yan learned about the emergency situation at Xiaoxian Star about half a day later. Qing Ling conveyed the words through Edisha. She had developed a communicator with the real world in the underworld. It was not so convenient for actual use. It required opening a small door to the real world, but it generally met the basic communication needs. The great star of immortality is indeed in trouble. Jia Yan put down the communicator, and then his eyes calmed down. He had known that the world would inevitably start a war, so there was nothing to be excited about when things came to pass, so he remained calm. No matter how eye-catching this one is, it is inevitable that the Xiaoxian star will become the key focus of the competition between the two sides. This is the terrain and cannot be solved for other reasons. Jia Yan pondered for a moment, thinking. Although this has not completely solved the problem of the pressure on the immortal cultivation star, it has relieved most of it. Otherwise, I am afraid that the cultivation star will not go to the Xinbei temple to find another way and find other continents to start with, but directly press on the Xin Chen sect and fight with Qing Chen. Ling comes to a fight to the death. The current situation also shows that the White God sect has gradually begun to value the strength of my side. At first, they were running around the world. Now I am afraid that they suspect that there are people of mine on the immortal cultivation star, but they dare not attack directly. Coming to the door, this is the result of the previous battles, but they just started to play dirty tricks, and their background is still stronger than mine in general. How should they act now? Jia Yan knows that he is still under a lot of pressure in this regard. This is not a crime of war, but something that was determined from the beginning. After all, the world was created by the White Dolphin, and the number of strong men under him is far greater. These basic strengths and weaknesses will not change at all when entering this world. According to Jia Yan's speculation, the White Dolphins probably still have the confidence to defeat all of their own sides, but they are concerned that Jia Yan does not want to lose in this world and directly takes people out of the world. In this way, he will have exhausted all his mechanisms and will ultimately draw water from a bamboo basket. All in vain. It's just that the White Dolphins are gradually adopting more safe and conservative methods of warfare, which shows that Jia Yan is gradually beginning to put pressure on the other side, and the strength gap between the two sides is slowly beginning to turn toward balance. This is the result of the fact that his own strength is not inferior to that of White Dolphin, but it is undeniable that there is a reason why White Dolphin did this deliberately. Now if I directly engage in a divine battle with him, I will only bring humiliation to myself. On the surface, I seem to have an advantage in the immortal cultivation star, but that is just a mortal battle that has not yet touched upon the divine level. As long as Qingling comes forward and exposes her identity, they can justifiably use strong men to exert pressure, and they may destroy and kill Qingling's worldly body, reducing the auxiliary force beside me. Jia Yan was thinking. It was his habit to prepare for a rainy day. It was also his habit to think about the consequences before doing anything. As for whether he would be discouraged by thinking of the worst outcome and not dare to fight for anything, it depends on the situation at the time. Jia Yan is a very courageous person, not the kind of turtle who shrinks his head. The matter was serious. Jia Yan thought about it for a while and finally decided to let Qingling hide her identity and go to the rescue with the Xin Chen sect's righteousness of assisting fellow immortal cultivators from other continents. No matter how far the war develops, she cannot expose herself. The identity of the Black God type God. Because it was Qingling who took the initiative to propose the invitation to fight, and rejecting her request would probably make this capable general feel disappointed. That's all, instead of shrinking back, let's let Qingling do it. The Xin Chen gate she controls is not weak anymore, and with Aditha's tactical command, it should be able to survive for a while. During this period, I will try my best to search for attributes. At the same time, let the various strengths you have mastered bloom more and compete for more advantages. In this way, there is no need to fear that a real war will break out. Jia Yan came to a final conclusion on this information and directly issued an order to go out. In the past 2 days, he also decided to intensify the attack on the area controlled by the Xinhe Alliance, so that the Xinbei Temple Alliance army near this area would feel even more terrible pressure and ask for internal help. In this way, the area will also become one of the focal points, distracting the White Gods. Of course, there is a limit to this. The White God department cannot be so nervous that it sends real gods. That would be digging its own grave. Is the order given to me by your lord not to expose my true identity? Well, I don't want to reveal my identity as a powerful outsider too early. Otherwise, I will be alone in front of the enemy. Maybe they will come soon. The strong one surrounded and killed me. On the Xiaoxian star, Qingling read the order passed back by Jia Yan and nodded secretly. Although she has the arrogance of a genius and strong person, excessive arrogance is foolishness and a way to seek death. As a top strong person in the outside world, how can she be so stupid if she can live to the level of a domain lord? After reading the information, she knew that Jia Yan's order was quite correct. Summon me the elders to protect you. I'm going to hold a sect-wide meeting. Qingwan stood beside Qingling and was shocked when she heard this. Recently, the entire Xin Chen sect has been engaged in fierce battles, and it has been rare for the elder protectors to gather together. But today, senior sister Qingling, the head of the clan, actually asked everyone to come. This is a very important signal. She seemed to smell the smell of bloodshed, so she quickly went to notify him without thinking too much. As for the entire Xin Chen sect, Qingwan is not worried about whether the other elders and guardians will act against the will or even make excuses not to come because of the sudden incident. There have been people like this before. In the past 2 months, they killed a lot of people, but no one dares to do this again. Soon, the frightened elders, protectors, and even some of the deacons who stayed in the Xin Chen sect were ordered to come to the main hall. Everyone came here in confusion, but when they left, their brows did not relax. They seemed to be even more depressed, as if something big was about to happen. Ordinary disciples didn't know why, but they soon figured it out. The Xin Chen sect received an urgent request for help from another continent. Under the constant battles on this continent, the leader and others actually had the idea of conquering the foreign continent to support their fellow immortal cultivators. As soon as this incident came out, there was an uproar. There are many people who don't know what to say, and an even more surprising number of people who are beating their chests and stamping their feet. After all, in the Xin Chen sect, Qingling holds the sole power, but not everyone is convinced. There have been undercurrents in private, and countless people have dreams of overthrowing Qingling's tyranny anytime and anywhere. Today, Qingling, who has always performed well, made perhaps the most unreasonable decision since she came to power. Suddenly, all these monsters jumped out. They began to lobby big shots, and also began to meet with strong men from other sections. They may even have contacts with enemy forces. They said that Qingling was crazy. They had not settled the affairs of their own continent and wanted to reach out to other continents. This is called arrogance, and also called nosy. Although there are ships and immortal cultivators traveling between the two continents, the distance between them is so far that there can be no exchange of interest between the two sides. Today's Xin Chen sect cannot cover the sky with one hand on this continent. To actually want to reach out to another continent is called overestimating one's capabilities, and God knows, will this person go to another continent to provoke a more powerful opponent and bring disaster to this continent? As a result, the entire world of immortality was once again in chaos, but the chaos was in people's hearts. Many people who had nothing to do with themselves were laughing secretly, waiting to see the joke. Qingling's nonsensical move may directly alienate her. Even if she uses her own strength to suppress her disciples, if her advancement into the foreign continent is blocked, her reputation may soon plummet and she will be kicked out. But Qingling didn't care about this. She knew that people in Xin Chen sect had already been shaken, and some people were secretly struggling, ready to overthrow themselves at any time. But it doesn't matter. As long as they didn't jump out, Qingling would just turn a blind eye and pretend they didn't see them. But if someone dared to jump out, Qingling would kill them. Senior sister, everyone below is saying that our rash trip to a foreign continent is an act of wishful thinking. We can't even build a ship that can go that far. Qingwan had been with Qingling for a long time, and her cautious attitude had softened a little. When she was serving Qingling for dinner that day, she suddenly stood beside her and hesitantly told her the news she had learned. "Oh? Are you here on behalf of someone? Or is this the news you got yourself?" Qingling glanced at Qingwan inadvertently, but this glance made King Juan's whole body stand up with chills, and her whole body felt like she had fallen into an ice cave. She quickly shook her head. "Senior sister, no one bribed me, this is what I did yesterday. I heard this when I was out shopping, please be aware of it." Qingling didn't care whether she was wronged or not, she just picked up the dishes on the plate and stuffed them into her mouth. "Whether someone is bribed, I have my own inference. Besides, even if it is not bribed, are you sure that the whispers of passers-by are not deliberately revealed to you? You are still too stupid. If it were me, I would not blatantly bribe a fool like you. From now on, there is no need to pass such words to me, do you understand?" Qingwan felt a shock all over her body, and she understood what was happening. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she nodded repeatedly, "Yes, Qingwan understands." After Qingling finished eating, she opened the document sent by an agency she had recently trained. This agency is the secret department urgently cultivated by the Chen section. It specializes in detecting intelligence, secrets, and monitoring the movements within the section. It can be said that it is the eyes and ears organization that Qingling needs most right now. Haha, sure enough, we dug out a few old people who want to use my expedition to a foreign continent to criticize and threaten me to step down. Don't they know how to write the Chinese character mantis as a chariot? They are overestimating their abilities. Qingling stretched the paper towards the candle, and saw the candle flame shining brightly, quickly burning the paper into ashes. Qingling moved her fingertips, and even the ashes were instantly blown away, making it impossible to collect them. This is the best way to protect those who are masters of the Secret Service. There is a difference of 1,000 words. If you subscribe to the official version in an hour, you will be able to see it. Thank you for reading the official version. As long as they don't jump out, Qingling will turn a blind eye and treat them as if they haven't seen them. But if someone dares to jump out, Qingling will kill them. Senior sister, everyone below is saying that our rash trip to a foreign continent is an act of wishful thinking. We can't even build a ship that can go that far. Qingwan had been with Qingling for a long time, and her cautious attitude had softened a little. When she was serving Qingling for dinner that day, she suddenly stood beside her and hesitantly told her the news she had learned. "Oh? Are you here on behalf of someone? Or is this the news you got yourself?" Qingling glanced at Qingwan inadvertently, but this glance made King Juan's whole body stand up with chills, and her whole body felt like she had fallen into an ice cave. She quickly shook her head. "Senior sister, no one bribed me, this is what I did yesterday. I heard this when I was out shopping, please be aware of it." Qingling didn't care whether she was wronged or not, she just picked up the dishes on the plate and stuffed them into her mouth. "Whether someone is bribed, I have my own inference. Besides, even if it is not bribed, are you sure that the whispers of passers-by are not deliberately revealed to you? You are still too stupid. If it were me, I would not blatantly bribe a fool like you. From now on, there is no need to pass such words to me, do you understand?" Qingwan felt a shock all over her body, and she understood what was happening. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she nodded repeatedly, "Yes, Qingwan understands." After Qingling finished eating, she opened the document sent by an agency she had recently trained. This agency is the secret department urgently cultivated by the Chen section. It specializes in detecting intelligence, secrets, and monitoring the movements within the section. It can be said that it is the eyes and ears organization that Qingling needs most right now. Haha, sure enough, we dug out a few old people who want to use my expedition to a foreign continent to criticize and threaten me to step down. Don't they know how to write the Chinese character mantis as a chariot? They are overestimating their abilities. Qingling stretched the paper towards the candle, and saw the candle flame shining brightly, quickly burning the paper into ashes. Qingling moved her fingertips, and even the ashes were instantly blown away, making it impossible to collect them. This is the best way to protect those who are masters of the Secret Service. There is a difference of 1000 words. If you subscribe to the official version in an hour, you will be able to see it. Thank you for reading the official version. Qingwan felt a shock all over her body, and she understood what was happening. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she nodded repeatedly, yes, Qingwan knows. After Qingling finished eating, she opened the document sent by an agency she had recently trained. This agency is the secret department urgently cultivated by the Xin Chen section. It specializes in detecting intelligence, secrets, and monitoring the movements within the section. It can be said that it is the eyes and ears organization that Qingling needs most right now. Haha, sure enough, we dug out a few old people who want to use my expedition to a foreign continent to criticize and threaten me to step down. Don't they know how to write the Chinese character mantis as a chariot? They are overestimating their abilities. Qingling stretched the paper towards the candle, and saw the candle flame shining brightly, quickly burning the paper into ashes. Qingling moved her fingertips, and even the ashes were instantly blown away, making it impossible to collect them. This is the best way to protect those who are masters of the Secret Service. There is a difference of 1000 words. If you subscribe to the official version in an hour, you will be able to see it. Thank you for reading the official version. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2720. Before Qingling could think more, a young male voice came from behind. It's a good idea if you want to cultivate her into a power in the dark. Looking back, she found Jia Yan looking at her with a half smile. I have met the adults. I am just a little humble, but the adults are laughing at me. Qingling Yingying bowed down, and the feminine posture between her brows made the young man who was coming feel chills in his heart. This guy can't really turn into a woman physically and mentally. The boy was Jia Yan, and he felt uneasy at this moment. He was afraid that after Qingling experienced this world, she would become a sissy when she went out. How could he be worthy of her? But thinking back, maybe it was her acting skills. After all, in this world, you have to look like people in this world. She is a woman here, and she behaves like a woman, so there is no big problem. Jia Yan couldn't say anything, but his face turned solemn. I heard that you are preparing to send troops to a foreign continent. As for that side, I also went there last time. Although the size and strength are not comparable to this, it's comparable to the mainland, but not a single sect can destroy it, and the Xin Chen sex war on this continent is still raging, so you have to make plans to fight on two fronts. He came here just for this matter. Edisha gave him the news. When Jia Yan heard the news, he came straight here. This matter is very important. Qingling can think of the Baishan family focusing their attention on this place, and Jia Yan can naturally think of it too. Qingling nodded and said, Sir, I am preparing to send troops to a foreign continent. Although this move has some dangers, it has to be done. If that land is given up, the dominance of this planet will no longer be ours. I have been there a few days ago. Before the incident, I had sent people to take care of things there. Now I have a small force that belongs to me, so it is not completely powerless. As for this continent, I think there is no problem in cooperating with Lady Edissa's tactics to stabilize the territory. Yes, what do you think? Jia Yan listened for a moment, then nodded. Your idea coincides with mine. If this so-called alien continent is lost, we will not be able to take over the dominance of this planet. Just go ahead and do it. When necessary, it doesn't matter even if the identity of the god is exposed. I will help you as much as possible later. I am here today to talk about this matter. You have all the control over this planet. In addition, don't forget to go there when you are free. Xin Shen Seeing absorbs power. I believe that the foundation you have accumulated now is enough for you to be promoted again. Even if I am not there, you can go to the secret room to absorb it by yourself. Okay, that's it. I have something to do. If anything happens, inform me immediately through Edisha. Qingling quickly stood up and bowed, better farewell to you, your majesty. As Qingling finished her words, the young man in front of her retreated into the crack. At the same time, several plates of spiritual fruits on the table disappeared. Qingling didn't say anything about the disappearance of the spirit fruit. She still understood Jia Yan's character. He did this not necessarily because he was greedy, but to express relaxation. The relationship between the two parties was not ordinary. It is as simple as superior and subordinate, and it also has a friendly meaning. Originally, Qingling and the others were not serious subordinates, but Leda used his sharp tongue to persuade the supporters who came here. It would be a bit inhumane to treat them as subordinates. Therefore, Jia Yan would not only treat them equally in terms of attitude, but also try his best not to cause casualties to these personnel, otherwise he would feel guilty in his heart. After Jia Yan left, he went straight to the underworld not long after. Adisha and Jia Lin got together to have fun again. When they saw Jia Yan coming, they were so frightened that they stopped what they were doing. But Jia Yan didn't care about what they were making, and said directly to the frightened Edisha, "Edisha, you know what happened on the immortal cultivation star, right? This matter is of great importance, you must be there before these days, focus more on the cultivation star and try your best to help Qingling with suggestions. If anything goes wrong, I will only ask you. Do you understand?" "Oh, Adisha knows." Adisha lowered her little head helplessly and threw the roast duck meat in her hand aside, feeling a little uninterested. She has gradually become accustomed to playing, and recently she even seems to feel a little lost in playing with things, trying out the rebellious psychology of a child for the first time. Jia Yan couldn't do anything about her, but Edisha was not a real child after all. She had inherited the knowledge and memory of Ji now, and it was impossible for her to miss out on important things. This was the pride of Ji now, but it was just a small emotional thing. Small fluctuations, presumably after some time, Adisha will not be able to repair herself, and people will always grow. Ignoring the aggrieved Adisha, Jia Yan looked at his little sister Jia Lin again. Jia Lin was a little shocked inside. Jia Yan never counted on himself for any big things, but this time he looked at himself. "Xiao Lin, your job is the god of death, so you must do your job as a god of death. The gods of death you manage can no longer just follow my instructions after this time. I will give you specific tasks, and then you go urge those gods of death to be perfect, even in the future. I will give you the big policy. You can lead the gods of death to complete their tasks. You have always wanted to do big things. This time, my brother will give you a chance. You promise my brother, since you have done it, you will do it well. Ask Adisha if you don't understand, but also listen to her instructions, okay?" Jia Lin's eyes lit up. It seems that she and Adisha are two little brats, wild kids outside, but don't forget, Jia Lin has never wanted to be just her brother's sister. She also has her own career ambitions, but in the process of Jia Yan's rise, deeply realized that he was still far away, and then gradually drifted away from his dream, turning into a decadent little god who only knew how to play all day long. "Brother, I can definitely do it well. Just give me the order." "Okay, as long as you have the guts, come on, I'll tell you what to do." Jia Yan smiled happily. Jia Lin seemed to be by their side and never made any contribution, but she watched her and other outside visitors' behavior from beginning to end. If we talk about the whole world, which indigenous creature knows them best? That must be Jia Lin. Therefore, if she is given a certain amount of tasks, as long as they are not excessive, she will be able to do a decent job by following the instructions. After all, Adita is also helping her by her side. After hearing Jia Yan's needs, Jia Lin's face became solemn, but she nodded vigorously without hesitation. I will try my best to do it. You are not required to do it alone, but you are required to do it with the cooperation of Edissa. No matter what decision you make, you must discuss it with Edissa. If Edissa says you can't do it, you are not allowed to do it. No matter how reasonable it is, it doesn't work, do you understand? Jia Yan scolded him sternly. Jia Lin was stunned for a moment, then looked at Edissa, and nodded helplessly with some reluctance. She knew that she would not be able to gain trust from the beginning. Edissa was obviously just a kid playing with her, but everyone believed in her tactical arrangements. Jia Lin thought she could also draw those ghostly symbols well. She doesn't understand the power of Edissa at all. Maybe over time, as her abilities grow, she will realize the gap between herself and Edissa. Jia Yan didn't want to scold his sister, but since she wanted to be in charge and involved in a real war, she had to obey orders, otherwise the impact would be too great and the entire war might fail. Edissa will teach you in the future. You have to call her teacher Edissa. Edissa was laughing and joking, as if she was proud again in front of Jia Lin. Teacher Edissa, please teach me in the future. Jia Lin muttered like a frustrated mosquito, giving in to Edissa. This was beyond Jia Yan and Edissa's expectations. Judging from Jia Lin's previous tendency to quarrel with Edissa, it was impossible for her to call Edissa teacher under any circumstances. It shows that she really values the task given by Jia Yan this time. Okay, now that the things have been ordered, I'll go deal with other things. Jia Yan drifted away with satisfaction. What he asked Jia Lin to do was not too difficult at all, which was to let her take advantage of the convenience of the underworld being connected in all directions, continue to organize the army of death, go to the living world to cause destruction, and cause chaos in the rear of Xinbei Temple. This seems to be the same as before, but in fact it is quite different. Because the scale was different, Jia Yan had previously organized several teams of about 100 people and asked them to go to various planets controlled by the White God system to cause mischief. Although it also caused the White God department to be seriously hindered in terms of strength, it was far from being able to defeat them. They were very troubled. But it is different now. Jia Yan is ready to implement this policy to the end. Jia Lin will form a strong raid team of more than 1,000 people in the near future, allowing powerful souls selected from the people to join her large army, and then divide it into the regular echelon of troops is arranged to enter the gate of the world and then raid the major planets. If this matter is accomplished, I am afraid that all the planets of the White God system will fall into a state of panic. A huge number of strong men and troops will be held back, and it is even possible to attract the real White God system gods to appear. If the right situation is met, under such circumstances, if a few subordinates brought into this world by Jia Yan are placed in the Death Gods team, they can secretly cross into Chenkang and make a surprise attack on the White Gods who come out to snipe the Death God. There may be huge gains. Of course, even if the gods cannot be assassinated, it will still cause their ordinary troops to lose strength, and it will also cause the opponent's resources and troops to have poor turnover. In any case, it is a good thing. Therefore, Jia Lin's next task is still quite important. Jia Yan walked all the way and came to the huge square where the gates of the world gathered. He saw that there were many more gates in this area, forming an excellent scenic spot. The gate stands on the ground, which is a refreshing sight. This place has also become a station-like place with a large flow of people. A large number of souls come to the registration hall outside the gate, pay money and buy tickets there, and then go to the corresponding gates of the present world, and go to the present world through the gates of the present world. After several months of development, the rules at the gate of the real world have gradually become clearer. There are many regulations in the rules, such as not going to the real world to harm others, not making noise, not revealing underworld information, etc. There are more than 100 rules and regulations, big and small. This is also a serious standard that has been gradually corrected, and it is absolutely reliable. Jia Yan didn't pass through the hall, and no one would stop him. Moreover, even if someone didn't know him, Jia Yan used his own strength, and it was impossible for anyone to see him. Before entering the gate of the real world, Jia Yan looked back at the prosperous underworld, nodded slightly, and dived directly into it. On the outside planet, it is raining continuously. On this strange planet, a crack suddenly opened, and a young man stepped out of the crack with great dignity, Shiren walking on the street. It was clear that the cracks were opened openly in front of everyone, but in the crowded streets, everyone turned a deaf ear and seemed not to have seen it. This is the terrifying thing about a top powerhouse. If he doesn't want to be seen by ordinary people, no one can see his whereabouts. Jia Yan looked at the crowds of people passing by on the road without any emotion. He just walked calmly towards the bustling place of the planet. As he walked, he looked around, communicated with vendors from time to time, and even bargained with people. In the end, I couldn't buy anything. Not long after, he came to the wall of a common house in the city. He looked inside the wall, heard some noises, and quietly opened the door of the house. Father, mother, why are you, who? Inside the room, a 7 or 8-year-old boy was curious about why his parents were still. He quickly turned around in shock and looked at the figure walking in from the door. But suddenly, he immediately gave up his plan to take action, his eyes a bit shocked and happy. Master Jia Yan, why are you here? Well, it's past 12 o'clock, and the backend cannot be logged in for some reason. And refresh it in another hour. There will be all the chapters. Please come to the official subscription. Thank you everyone. Of course, even if you can't plot, if it reaches the gods, it will also cause their ordinary troops to lose strength, and it will also cause the opponent's resources and troops to have poor turnover. In any case, it is a good thing. Therefore, Jia Lin's next task is still quite important. Jia Yan walked all the way and came to the huge square where the gates of the world gathered. He saw that there were many more gates in this area, forming an excellent scenic spot. The gate stands on the ground, which is a refreshing sight. This place has also become a station-like place with a large flow of people. A large number of souls come to the registration hall outside the gate, pay money and buy tickets there, and then go to their corresponding gates in the present world, and go to the present world through the gates in the present world. After several months of development, the rules at the gate of the real world have gradually become clearer. There are many regulations in the rules, such as not going to the real world to harm others, not making noise, not revealing underworld information, etc. There are more than 100 small and large details. This is also a serious standard that has been gradually corrected, and it is absolutely reliable. Jia Yan didn't pass through the hall, and no one would stop him. Moreover, even if someone didn't know him, Jia Yan used his own strength, and it was impossible for anyone to see him. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2721. Others are here to help the evolved beast race, and they are friends. So Rita is weird. Master Jia Yan would not come to meet him because he was worried about him. If the relationship between the two parties was like that, he would feel a little uncomfortable, because it meant that Jia Yan was alienated from him. It's not really dangerous. Death is nothing in this world. I'm here to see you, and take a look at the headquarters of the White God section, Jia Yan said with some emotional intelligence, but did not mention the real purpose first. Leda doesn't believe it anyway, but he will pretend to believe it. Your Majesty, you have the honor to come and visit me. Thank you, Lord Jia Yan, for your care. Please come in. I will use my power to make my family members in this world lose their minds for a moment. Jia Yan was speechless. This Leda really didn't care about his so-called family members from another world. That's right, not everyone is like him, who projects his original family members on Earth into this world and treats them as blood relatives. The two entered the house, and several people stood there in confusion. They were Lada's parents and clan members. My family lives together. Recently, after hearing that I have a talent, the elders in the family also came to teach me. Leda made an introduction, pointing out his parents in this world, as well as the so-called masters of guidance in the clan. I didn't really want the two parties to meet and talk, so I just introduced them. The two of them entered the room and sat down. Jia Yan thoughtfully realized the power around him for a moment, feeling a little surprised. About 5 or 6 venerable masters have arrived in the city where you are. Are there so many masters on this planet? Leda searched as hard as he could, thought about the information he had compiled, shook his head and said, "That's not the case. From what I can see, the combat power on this planet is 17 or 18 who have reached the top of the venerable level. This is still close. The central planet where everyone from the White God sect is located. The reason why there are so many experts in this city is probably because there have been several real-world gates here before. Most of them were caused by me opening the fluctuations in the underworld space. They seem to have found the technology to lock the appearance of the real-world gate. So a large number of experts were sent here to take charge, which is why I haven't gone back to the underworld every day recently, because I really don't want to give them any flaws." Jia Yan nodded and said, "Then you should observe carefully. Don't forget that they have noticed you and are arranging means to deal with you. If they really find something, I would rather give up this identity to save my life. I don't want to lose my combat power at this time." "I know." Leighton nodded slightly. This is what Master Jia Yan would think about. It is impossible for him to care about himself. The two sides had an efficient exchange of information about this place. After a while, Jia Yan, who looked like a young man, walked out of Leda's house. Only then did his family come back to their senses from their drowsiness, each of them acting strangely. They seemed to have done something just now, but they seemed to have done nothing. They must have been distracted and sleepy. No one thinks more, because it involves the strength of a strong person. If you are not at the level, you can't even see through this layer of fog. Leda looked at the sky from a distance and saw a young man soaring in the sky. No one noticed the ordinary masters below. He couldn't help but secretly marveled at what level the current Master Jia Yan had reached in this world. Even the venerable level can't be found, at least it has a semi-star level strength, right? It can't reach the star level. The power that the two adults are fighting for will probably not reach the star level. Even if it is possible, it won't be now. They need to absorb a large amount of world energy to reach the star. Then this time is probably their final fighting strength in a decisive battle in this world. Later, they will hit reality and absorb the other party's power. You have me, and I have you. Who can absorb the power of the body faster? The better you can grasp the opponent's shortcomings, and finally win the final victory in one fell swoop. The strength level of Leda and his other subordinates may seem to be quite different from that of Jia Yan, but in fact, in terms of level, the difference is not too big. Therefore, the principles and implementation methods of the battle for promotion that Jia Yan and the others are engaged in, everyone has a clear understanding. I am just starting out in the starry sky now. If I want to be involved in this battle, I must have at least a combat power above that of a venerable. Otherwise, it will be difficult to even get involved. I am already a weak subordinate under the Lord. This time if I can't help you from the same starting point in another world, I'm afraid my status in the minds of adults will plummet, so I have to work hard. If I can't be the last to come first, maybe I can still be valued by adults in the future, and my status will be absolute. Not much higher. Leda also has his own Xiaojuju. He is loyal to Jia Yan because he sees Jia Yan's prospects. If Jia Yan has great prospects, but he has been unable to improve, it is natural for him to be abandoned or relegated to the cold palace. He himself, it was also because of his ambition that he gave up the Zerg Queen and chose Jia Yan, the territory lord level. If possible, he also wanted to borrow Jia Yan's hand to step into it, so that he would not waste his life on the path of the strong. Damn it! Effort. Leda secretly made up her mind. Jia Yan rose up step by step and reached the height of the planet. Even the dozen or so venerable masters ignored him and allowed him to enter the starry sky right under their noses. There was neither sadness nor joy in Jia Yan's eyebrows, just like a god who truly had no human emotions. He calmly jumped into the deep space and looked at a large area of chaos not far from the planet. In the chaotic place in the distance, when mortals look at it, they see patches of rays of light shining through it, which is not clear at all. Because there is a large amount of white power shrouding it, under the gaze of believers in the white god, I am afraid that this place is the existence of a miracle and is extremely sacred. Among the clouds and mist, there is an auspicious brilliance puffing out the clouds. It is the brilliance of the gods practicing in it. It is said that strong people enter this area shrouded in rays of light and gain enlightenment. They will soon be able to break through the shackles and reach a new realm. It is a pity that the gods are cultivating. Otherwise, ordinary people cannot enter the area where the gods are. This area is commonly known as the God Realm by mortals. Even if you can reach the God Realm, you cannot shuttle in. The God Realm seems to be there, but it is not there. If you shuttle in, you will only shuttle out from the other end. Sound familiar? Yes, this technique is similar to the subspace ability that Jia Yan also masters. White Dolphin is also a strong subspace talent, and is stronger in subspace skills. Jia Yan is faintly inferior to him in skills, and can do it in the subspace. It's not surprising that another world would tinker with this. But he is strong, and Jia Yan will not belittle himself. If Jia Yan, who first entered this world, was probably far weaker than the white dolphins who had already laid out their plans here, they would not be able to fight back without using their true power. So now, after having been in this world for almost 2 years, he is completely different. Maybe the white dolphin has calculated it 1,000 times, but it has never figured out that the name Jia Yan is really famous for in the starry sky around the Orion arm is the evolutionary beast. Evolved beasts are a race of starry sky beasts, and the characteristic of this race is devouring. The power of devouring can be any kind of substance. As long as they have the power, they can absorb almost all of it, and then convert it efficiently. Use energy for your body. Compared with swallowing power, Jia Yan doesn't think he will lose to any strong person of the same level. It was precisely because of this that he dared to set foot here today, and came to the outskirts of the god realm of the White God Department in a grand manner. This is called the boldness of an expert. It can also be said that Jia Yan did not pay much attention to the many people around the White Dolphin. From the beginning to the end, he had only one opponent, the helpers beside White Dolphin. Even if there were Domain Lord level ones, in his hands they could only do 1 or 2 moves. At this moment, deep inside the so-called White God realm, the White Dolphin himself, who was practicing in seclusion and trying to compete with Jia Yan for energy, had a slight expression on his face. He felt an arrogant power, scanning the scope of the God realm he had created. This power was quite obscure, but it was grasped by the White Dolphin, and he suddenly opened his eyes. Is it him? It's impossible. Does he dare to come here? The young man, transformed into a white dolphin, stood up solemnly and strode out of the retreat. Are you out of seclusion? Outside the retreat, the charming and beautiful woman was a little surprised. She didn't expect that the white dolphin who had just announced her retreat would come out again, which was contrary to his recent habits. Kung Fu, please rest. I seem to have some misperceptions. I need to go out to check the situation. Don't worry. The white dolphin's gentle, watery eyes rested on concubine Kun, and then looked at each other lovingly. He shuttled through the woman's body and flew to the periphery of the chaotic white light world. After he left, the woman's affectionate eyes turned cold. What she didn't notice was that the majestic young man who had turned his back to her and left had an indifferent and mocking look on his face, but he pretended to be more perfect than the woman. This look was fleeting. After a while, he returned to his expression of joy and anger. The ignorant and indifferent young man. Puff. Jia Yan seemed to feel something. There was an existence that made him look at him. It traveled through the chaos at extremely fast speed and was about to approach him. White Dolphin, now is not the time for a head-on battle. Let's talk about it next time. He smiled, but did not leave in despair. Instead, he clenched a fist with one hand and struck out directly towards the approaching possessor of terrifying power, like a flash in the pan. Boom! Just listen to the starry sky shaking, and the loud noise like 5 thunders, causing shaking in all directions. The people on the planet not far away felt it, but Leda looked up solemnly. He knew that Jia Yan would not choose to start a war so early, but Leda did not expect to make such a big noise. Is this a demonstration? Yes, it is a demonstration. The sphere of influence of the people of the Black God system in this world has been severely compressed. Ordinary people do not have a strong foundation of belief in the Black God. Belief cannot be reversed in a year or two, so the disadvantage of rock will remain for a long time, and if you want to shake this foundation and accelerate the process of changing people's beliefs, in addition to using the underworld to create the concept of return of the dead to the spiritual world, the other more important thing is to take the oath like today the Black God system has similar combat power to the White God system. Jia Yan is using the most straightforward method to let all the people in this world see the horror of the true power of a single blow from the world's 2 great creation gods, the Black and White gods. After the loud noise like a thunderbolt from the blue, there was also a huge earth-shaking energy in the Chaos God realm. The white fist quickly enlarged, and soon it was as huge as half a planet, with overwhelming power. Jia Yan also did not show weakness. The huge black fist quickly bloomed to the size of half a planet. From a distance, the 2 big fists were like 2 black and white suns, colliding directly in one place, erupting like thunder. The sound of terror. The shock wave shot out fiercely. The planet was at least 10 million kilometers away, but it was still affected by the earth-shattering force a moment later. The earth trembled, the ground cracked, and several giant volcanoes also began to erupt. Fortunately, there were no, regardless of whether there is an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, a young master-level master can calm it down with a wave of his hand, but this does not prevent the people from knowing the terrifying nature of these 2 giant fist shadows. Not to mention them, those masters who witnessed the battle between the 2 gods of creation, especially the masters at the venerable level, were also dumbfounded and felt chills all over their bodies. Not only have they seen this level of power, they have never even imagined it. This is the power of the creation god level. So, if the 2 creation gods want to destroy the planet under our feet, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes? They can create the world, and they can also destroy the world. It's just a few hundred words away. You can see it after an hour by refreshing the official version of Kitty, and the sphere of influence of the people of the Black God system in this world has been severely compressed. Ordinary people do not have a strong foundation of belief in the Black God. Belief cannot be reversed in a year or two, so Jia Yan's disadvantage will remain for a long time. And if you want to shake this foundation and accelerate the process of changing people's beliefs, in addition to using the underworld to create the concept of the dead return to the spiritual world, the other more important thing is to swear that the Black God system has similar combat power to the White God system just like today. Jia Yan is using the most straightforward method to let all the people in this world see the horror of the true power of a single blow from the world's 2 great creation gods, the Black and White gods. After the loud noise like a thunderbolt from the blue, there was also a huge earth-shaking energy in the Chaos God realm. The white fist quickly enlarged, and soon it was as huge as half a planet, with overwhelming power. Jia Yan also did not show weakness. The huge black fist quickly bloomed to the size of half a planet. From a distance, the two big fists were like two black and white suns, colliding directly in one place, erupting like thunder. The sound of terror. The shock wave shot out fiercely. The planet was at least 10 million kilometers away, but it was still affected by the earth-shattering force a moment later. The earth trembled, the ground cracked, and several giant volcanoes also began to erupt. Fortunately, there were no, regardless of whether there is an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, a young master-level master can calm it down with a wave of his hand, but this does not prevent the people from knowing the terrifying nature of these two giant fist shadows. Don't talk about them, those who witnessed the creation of the world.